You wake up already tired. Phone in hand, emails piling up, deadlines chasing you. By night, you collapse, wondering if life is just this endless cycle. Stress, ennui, fear. They control you, don't they? But listen, you don't need to run. You don't need to fight. The answer has been with you all along. It's your breath. One breath can change your day. One breath can change your life. Stay with me, because together we will turn your chaos into calm and your emptiness into peace. Modern life often looks shiny on the surface. We scroll through glowing screens, race between deadlines, and carry 1,000 silent expectations on our shoulders. At first glance, this speed might appear exciting, even empowering, but beneath the constant noise, there is a storm in the mind, a storm that never fully rests. This is the truth about modern life, the truth many of us sense but rarely dare to face. We live in an age where technology connects us instantly, but it also fuels constant comparison. One glance at a friend's vacation photo can stir envy. One notification can raise anxiety. One unfinished task can trigger guilt. And when the day ends, even our rest is not free. Our thoughts continue spinning like wheels in the dark, replaying conversations, rehearsing future fears, regretting old mistakes. The storm inside grows louder, and silence feels impossible. The irony is that society praises busyness as if it were a badge of honor. We tell ourselves that being productive, being efficient, being faster than yesterday means we are valuable. Yet the more we chase, the more hollow we feel. Our bodies are tired, our minds restless, and our hearts hungry for something deeper. This constant restlessness is not simply a matter of stress. It is a symptom of disconnection. Disconnection from our own breath, from our own presence, from the ground beneath our feet. Buddhism teaches that suffering arises when we are lost in illusions, and one of the greatest illusions of modern life is the belief that we can control everything. We believe if we plan perfectly, work harder, stay informed at every moment, then somehow we will be safe from chaos. But life resists our control. The world changes, jobs disappear, relationships shift, health falters. The storm of impermanence sweeps across our lives, no matter how tightly we cling to our plans. And so the truth about modern life is this: we are caught in a storm of the mind, a storm made of anxiety, fear, craving, and distraction. We chase after one moment, then another, and rarely pause long enough to truly arrive in the present. The mind becomes like a restless monkey, leaping from branch to branch, never at peace. But here is the deeper pain: we rarely admit how much this storm hurts us. Instead, we distract ourselves. We open another app, binge another show, buy another thing we don't really need. For a brief moment, the storm feels quieter, but soon the winds return, and the silence we are running from is the very silence that could heal us. Imagine for a moment that you are standing in the middle of this storm. The winds howl with unfinished emails, buzzing phones, arguments, and unspoken worries. Your body is tense, your breath shallow. In that moment, what do you long for? Most of us would say, peace. Not more noise, not more control, not more distraction, just peace. But peace seems so far away when the storm is strong. This is where the wisdom of Buddhism begins to speak. Instead of teaching us to escape the storm, it invites us to turn toward it, to look at the chaos of modern life directly and say, yes, this is here. Yes, this is real, because only when we face the storm can we begin to understand it. And only when we understand it can we discover the path to calm. The Buddha once described the mind as a pond of water. When the water is disturbed, when the surface is wild with ripples, we cannot see clearly into its depths. But when the water becomes still, the reflection is sharp and the truth appears. Modern life has made our pond stormy every day. We can barely see ourselves anymore. But the practice of daily Buddhism is like gently placing stones of mindfulness into the pond, allowing the ripples to settle. Slowly, the water clears, and with it, our vision of what truly matters. The truth about modern life and the storm of the mind is not meant to discourage us. It is meant to awaken us. Because when we admit the storm exists, we also admit our deep longing for calm, and that longing is the seed of transformation. Every storm, no matter how fierce, eventually carries the possibility of stillness. Buddhism reminds us that the calm we seek is not somewhere outside, it is already within us, waiting to be uncovered beneath the noise. As we continue this journey, we will learn how simple practices, breathing with awareness, walking with mindfulness, eating with gratitude, can begin to soften the winds inside. These practices do not eliminate the chaos of the world outside, but they change the way we meet it. The storm may roar, but within us there can be an island of peace, an inner refuge that no storm can destroy. So let us begin here with honesty. Modern life is restless. The mind is stormy. We are tired of running, tired of pretending that distraction equals happiness. The first step toward calm is simply to pause, breathe, and see the storm for what it island. From this place of recognition, the journey begins. If you pause for a moment and look honestly at your own days, you may notice how quickly worry appears. A small delay at work, a sudden silence in a friend's reply, an unexpected bill, or even the thought of the future can trigger unease. It happens almost automatically, as if the mind were trained to search for danger, to prepare for disaster. Anxiety and stress rise not because we choose them, but because modern life has conditioned us to live in a constant state of tension. Why are we so easily trapped in this cycle? The answer is woven into both human biology and the culture we inhabit. On the biological level, our nervous system was designed thousands of years ago to keep us alive. The body's fight or flight response is meant to protect us from lions, storms, or sudden threats. A racing heart, quickened breath, tightened muscles. These were useful when survival depended on running fast or defending ourselves. But today, the lions are not real. They appear in the form of deadlines, social media notifications, and the fear of failing expectations. Our body still reacts as if we are in mortal danger, even though the threat is mostly in the mind. Culture magnifies this reaction. From an early age, we are taught to strive, to compete, to prove ourselves worthy. We learn that our value comes from grades, from promotions, from possessions, from how others see us. And so, even when the body is safe, the mind feels under attack. Am I enough? Am I falling behind? What if I fail? What if I lose what I have? These questions circle endlessly, pulling us deeper into stress. The world around us is not patient either. Technology moves faster than our breathing, markets change before we adapt, and the pace of news ensures we never feel settled. We are always one step away from the next disruption, and because we are constantly connected, we are also constantly comparing. Every scroll on the phone shows us someone richer, healthier, happier, more successful. Anxiety blossoms in this soil of comparison, feeding on the belief that we are never enough as we are. But perhaps the most subtle trap is that we do not even notice how deeply stress shapes us. It becomes normal to wake up already tense, to carry a tightness in the chest throughout the day, to go to bed with a restless mind. Many people believe this is just life, this endless rush, this endless worry. But Buddhism teaches us to see clearly, and when we look closely, we realize stress is not simply life, it is the mind's reaction to life. Why then does the mind react this way? Because it clings. It clings to what it wants, it clings to what it fears, and it clings to the illusion that everything can be controlled. In the Four Noble Truths, the Buddha explained that suffering arises from craving and attachment. Stress is a form of this suffering. We crave certainty in a world that is uncertain. We crave approval in a world where opinions shift like the wind. We crave stability in a world that is always changing. And when reality does not give us what we crave, anxiety blooms like a fire. Imagine holding a rope tightly, pulling against the current of a river. The harder you grip, the more your hands burn, the more exhausted you become. This is how stress works. We cling to outcomes, to identities, to expectations, and the flow of life keeps pulling. The tighter we hold, the more we suffer. Yet there is another reason we are so vulnerable to anxiety. We rarely give ourselves permission to pause. In our culture, rest is almost seen as laziness. To stop, to breathe, to simply be, that feels unproductive. And so, we run faster, piling task upon task, never questioning whether the race is leading us anywhere. Without pauses, the nervous system never resets. The body remains in fight or flight mode long after the danger has passed. Over time, this becomes chronic stress, draining our health, our relationships, and our joy. But here lies the good news. If we can understand why we are trapped, we can begin to loosen the trap. Anxiety thrives in the shadows, in unawareness. When we shine the light of mindfulness on it, something shifts. We begin to see that stress is not an enemy to fight, but a signal to listen to. It tells us where we are clinging, where we are afraid, where we have lost connection with the present moment. The Buddha did not promise a life without difficulties. He promised a way to face difficulties with clarity and compassion. Anxiety and stress are not punishments. They are invitations to return. Return to the breath. Return to the body. Return to the truth that we do not need to control every outcome in order to be at peace. The next time anxiety arises, try to notice it gently. Instead of saying, "I am stressed," try saying, "Stress is here." Instead of saying, "I am anxious," try saying, "Anxiety is present." This small shift reminds us that we are not the storm. We are the sky in which the storm appears. And just as every storm passes, so too will this moment of fear. So why are we so easily trapped in anxiety and stress? Because we forget who we are. We believe we are the storm, not the sky. We believe we must cling, when in fact we can let go. We believe rest is weakness, when in truth it is strength. The path of daily Buddhist practice is not about escaping life, but about learning to meet life without being consumed by it. This is only the beginning of the journey. As we move forward, we will discover practical ways to face this cycle, not with resistance, but with wisdom. Anxiety may visit, but it does not have to stay. Stress may arise, but it does not have to define us. When we see clearly, we find the courage to release the rope, to stop fighting the river, and to float gently toward the calm that has always been waiting within. We live in a world where happiness is sold to us like a product. Advertisements whisper that a new car will bring freedom, that a new phone will bring connection, that a new outfit will bring confidence. The shelves of happiness are endless, and every season brings a fresh promise. Buy this, achieve that, and then finally you will feel whole. And yet, despite all the promises, we often find ourselves restless, dissatisfied, searching for the next thing. This restless search reveals one of the great illusions of modern life, the illusion of happiness. We believe happiness is something to be gained from the outside, something to be owned, achieved, or consumed. And because the outside world is always changing, our happiness feels fragile, easily stolen by a single disappointment. Consider for a moment the last time you felt joy from a purchase, a success, or a compliment. The happiness was real, yes, but how long did it last? Hours, days. Soon the mind grew hungry again. The satisfaction faded, replaced by a new desire. This is not a failure of your character. It is the way the human mind works when it is untrained. Buddhism teaches that craving is like a fire. It flares up when fed, but it never says, enough. It always asks for more. So we chase the next raise, the next house, the next relationship, believing each will finally silence the craving. But every achievement carries its shadow. A promotion brings pride, but also fear of losing it. A new relationship brings joy, but also anxiety about rejection. A shiny possession brings delight, but also the burden of keeping it safe. The illusion of happiness is that it can be permanently secured through things that are temporary. Alongside this illusion comes another, the illusion of control. We cling to the belief that if we plan carefully enough, work hard enough, manage every detail, then life will unfold exactly as we desire. This illusion gives us comfort, but it is fragile, because no matter how carefully we plan, life is unpredictable. Jobs end, loved ones change, health shifts, accidents happen. The more tightly we hold the reins, the more painful it is when life inevitably veers off the path we had imagined. This desire for control is deeply human. It comes from fear, the fear of uncertainty, the fear of loss. Our minds tell us, if I control enough, I will be safe. But Buddhism reminds us that clinging to control is like trying to command the ocean. We may build walls, make predictions, and set rules, but the waves will still rise and fall according to their nature. The Buddha's teaching on impermanence speaks directly to this. Everything that arises will pass away. Every success, every failure, every breath. When we forget this truth, we grasp at permanence in a world that cannot provide it. This grasping leads to stress, to disappointment, to suffering. The illusion of control makes us believe we are masters of the universe, when in reality we are participants in a vast, interconnected flow. But why do these illusions trap us so deeply? Because they are reinforced everywhere. Society rewards achievement, culture glorifies possessions, social media magnifies comparison. We are praised when we win and judged when we lose. From childhood, we are taught to measure our worth by external markers. To step away from this system feels almost like betrayal. And so, even as we sense that true happiness is not in the next purchase or the next promotion, we continue to play the game, hoping this time the prize will last. The tragedy is not only that the prize fades, but that in chasing it, we miss the present. We overlook the quiet joy of a simple breath, the sweetness of a shared smile, the miracle of being alive in this very moment. Our eyes are fixed on the future, on the next, and we rush past the treasures already in our hands. Imagine standing in a beautiful garden, but your gaze is locked on the horizon, waiting for a truck to deliver flowers. You do not see the roses blooming by your feet, the sunlight pouring gently across the leaves. This is how we often live, surrounded by wonder, yet blind to it because our minds are chasing illusions. The illusion of happiness and control is powerful, but it is not unbreakable. The first step to freedom is recognition. When we pause and see clearly, this happiness is temporary, or this desire to control is making me suffer, we begin to loosen the grip of illusion. This recognition is not meant to make us cynical. It does not mean we must reject joy or abandon responsibility. Rather, it invites us to see joy in its true nature, precious but impermanent. It invites us to take responsibility without demanding control over what cannot be controlled. Daily Buddhist practice offers tools for this recognition. Through mindfulness, we notice how craving arises and passes, how control slips through our fingers. Through meditation, we taste a happiness not dependent on possessions or praise, but on presence itself. Through compassion, we learn to soften our grip, to let life flow as it will, while meeting it with an open heart. There is a story of a monk who held a cup in his hand and said, "This cup is already broken." He did not mean the cup was cracked. He meant that he fully understood its impermanence. One day, it would fall, or wear out, or be lost. Knowing this, he cherished it more deeply in the present. Every sip of tea became a miracle, every glance at the cup a reminder of life's fragility and beauty. This is the wisdom that cuts through illusion, not to despair at impermanence, but to embrace it. The same is true for our lives. When we see clearly that happiness based on external things will fade, we stop clinging so desperately. When we realize control is an illusion, we stop fighting the waves and instead learn to surf them with grace. The calm we long for is not found in controlling life, but in surrendering to its flow with awareness and compassion. The illusions of happiness and control will continue to seduce us. They are part of the human condition. But with practice, we learn to smile at them, to see through their promises, and to return to what is real. What is real is this breath, this moment, this chance to live with open eyes and an open heart. And so the question is not whether we will face illusions, they will always be there. The question is whether we will remain trapped by them or wake up to their nature. Buddhism calls this waking up, awakening. It is not a distant goal, but a daily practice. Each time we see an illusion for what it is, we awaken a little more. Each time we let go of the need for perfect happiness or total control, we step closer to true peace. We often imagine that stillness is a luxury, something reserved for retreats, monasteries, or rare weekends when the calendar happens to be empty. In the rhythm of modern life, stillness seems optional, even indulgent. There is always another task, another meeting, another message demanding our attention, and so we postpone it. We say, "I'll rest later, I'll meditate when life slows down, I'll listen to myself when things are less busy." But later rarely comes. The storm of life does not pause for us, and in ignoring inner stillness, We pay a cost far greater than we realize. The cost is not always obvious. It does not arrive as a single catastrophe, but as a slow erosion. Without stillness, our nervous system never resets. The body remains locked in tension, the mind stuck in overdrive. Over time, this unrelenting pace wears us down. We feel exhausted even after sleep. We grow impatient with loved ones. Small frustrations trigger outsized reactions. The constant motion becomes our normal, and we forget what true rest feels like. One hidden cost is the loss of clarity. Without stillness, our decisions are made from a place of urgency rather than wisdom. We rush into commitments. We overextend ourselves. We say yes when our hearts are begging us to say no. We confuse busyness with purpose and end up drifting through life without truly knowing where we are headed. Like a boat caught in strong currents, we may move quickly, but we are not steering. Another cost is the weakening of relationships. When we are never still, we are never fully present. We sit with family but check our phones. We listen to friends but think about tomorrow's tasks. We nod during conversations but our minds are already elsewhere. Slowly, connection frays. The people around us feel unseen, unheard, unloved, not because we do not care, but because we are not here. Stillness is what allows us to show up fully, to listen deeply, to touch another's heart. Without it, even the closest bonds become shallow. The most painful cost, perhaps, is that we lose touch with ourselves. Beneath the layers of distraction and noise, there is a quiet voice that whispers truth. It tells us when we are living in alignment and when we are not. It guides us toward what matters most. But this voice is subtle, and it can only be heard in stillness. When we ignore stillness, the voice grows faint. Eventually, we may wake up years later feeling like strangers to ourselves, wondering, how did I end up here? Whose life am I living? Buddhism warns us about this danger. The Buddha taught that the mind is like a lamp in the wind without stillness. The flame flickers wildly, and we cannot see clearly. We mistake shadows for reality. We chase illusions, thinking they are truths. We cling to suffering because we cannot recognize another way. Inner stillness is not a luxury. It is the foundation of wisdom. Without it, our lives are driven by habit and fear rather than awareness and compassion. Consider the body itself. Science confirms what ancient wisdom has long known. Constant stress without stillness harms us physically. The immune system weakens, the heart strains, the mind becomes prone to anxiety and depression. We treat symptoms with pills, distractions, and quick fixes, but the deeper cause remains. It is the absence of moments where the body and mind can breathe, release, and renew. Ignoring stillness is like refusing to give water to a plant and then wondering why it withers. And yet, many resist stillness because it feels uncomfortable at first. When the noise stops, we may encounter emotions we have long buried: grief, anger, loneliness. We may face truths about our lives that we would rather avoid. So we keep moving, keep working, keep scrolling. But in doing so, we trade short-term avoidance for long-term suffering. What we avoid grows heavier the longer it is ignored. Stillness does not create these feelings. It simply reveals what is already inside us, waiting for our attention. There is also a cultural myth that stillness is unproductive. We admire action, achievement, constant motion. A person who pauses, who rests, who meditates may be seen as lazy or unambitious. But the irony is that without stillness, our actions lose their depth. We may accomplish much, but our work lacks soul. We may achieve success, but we feel hollow inside. Stillness is not the opposite of productivity. It is the source of meaningful productivity. It sharpens the mind, deepens our presence, and roots our actions in clarity. Think of a musician. Without pauses, without silence, the music becomes noise. It is the spaces between the notes that give the song its shape and beauty. Life is the same. Without stillness, our days blur into one long, chaotic sound. It is in stillness that we find rhythm, harmony, and meaning. The hidden cost of ignoring inner stillness is not only personal but collective. When entire societies run without pause, they breed burnout, division, and despair. We see it in rising rates of mental illness, in families torn apart by busyness, in communities fractured by disconnection. A society without stillness is a society always on edge, vulnerable to fear and anger. But when individuals choose stillness, even in small ways, they plant seeds of peace that ripple outward. So, how do we begin to reclaim what has been ignored? Not by waiting for life to become less busy, but by carving out moments of stillness within the busyness. A single mindful breath, a short pause before replying, 5 minutes of silence in the morning. These are not small gestures, they are revolutionary acts in a world addicted to noise. Each moment of stillness is a doorway back to ourselves, back to clarity, back to presence. The Buddha once said that within each of us is an island of peace, a place untouched by the storms of life. But to find that island, we must stop running long enough to notice it. When we ignore stillness, we drift endlessly at sea. When we honor it, even briefly, we discover land beneath our feet. The hidden cost of ignoring inner stillness is that we live half-lives, present in body, absent in spirit. We rush, we achieve, we acquire, but we do not truly live. The gift of stillness is that it returns us to life itself. It awakens us to the miracle of breathing, of being, of simply existing in this fleeting, precious moment. And so, the choice before us is simple but profound. Continue ignoring stillness and pay the hidden cost, or turn gently toward it and reclaim the life we have been rushing past. No one else can make this choice for us. The storm of modern life will not quiet on its own. It is we who must pause, breathe, and choose to listen to the silence that has been waiting for us all along. When we look honestly at our lives, we see that suffering is not rare. It is woven into the fabric of daily existence. Stress, disappointment, heartbreak, loneliness, fear, these are not exceptions, but regular visitors. And yet, most of us spend our days running from them, pretending that if we move fast enough or achieve enough, suffering will vanish. But Buddhism takes a different approach. It does not ask us to deny suffering, nor to drown in it, but to understand it. Because once we understand the roots of suffering, we can begin to loosen its grip. More than 2,500 years ago, the Buddha sat beneath the Bodhi tree and saw clearly the reality of human life. What he discovered has echoed through centuries, that life, in its ordinary form, is marked by dukkha. This word is often translated as suffering, but its meaning is broader. It points to the satisfactoriness of life, the sense that even when things are going well, something feels incomplete. Think about the last time you achieved something you worked hard for. Perhaps it was a promotion, a new relationship, a goal finally reached. In the moment, it felt wonderful. But did the joy last forever? Or did it eventually fade, replaced by a new worry, a new craving, a new disappointment? This is dukkha. It is not just about pain or failure. It is about the truth that nothing in ordinary life can give us lasting, unshakable peace. Why is this so? Buddhism points to 3 roots of suffering, 3 poisons that shape much of our experience: craving, aversion, and ignorance. Craving, or tanha, is the endless hunger of the mind. It whispers, "If only I had this, then I would be happy." But once we get what we want, craving quickly shifts to something else. It is like drinking salt water. The more we drink, the thirstier we become. Craving is not limited to possessions. We crave praise, success, security, even experiences of pleasure. And every time life does not deliver exactly what we want, suffering arises. Aversion is the flip side. It is our resistance to what we dislike. We push away discomfort. We run from pain. We fight against reality when it does not match our desires. But the more we resist, the more energy we waste. Imagine holding a door shut while the wind howls outside. The effort exhausts us, yet the storm continues. Aversion makes us prisoners of our own fear and anger, unable to find peace even in difficulty. Ignorance, the 3rd root, is perhaps the most subtle. It is our failure to see reality as it truly is. We live under illusions, believing life should be permanent, believing we are separate from others, believing control is possible in an uncontrollable world. This ignorance blinds us, so we repeat the same patterns of suffering again and again, not understanding why we feel empty, even when we have everything we thought we wanted. The Buddha's insight was revolutionary because it shifted the way we relate to suffering. Instead of asking, "How do I avoid pain?" he asked, "What is the nature of pain? Where does it come from?" By understanding the roots craving, aversion, and ignorance, we begin to see that suffering is not random. It follows laws, like seeds that produce predictable fruits. If we plant seeds of craving, we reap restlessness. If we plant seeds of aversion, we reap conflict. If we plant seeds of ignorance, we reap confusion. But if we plant seeds of mindfulness, compassion, and wisdom, we reap peace. This teaching is known as the first noble truth, the truth of suffering. Many misinterpret it as pessimism, as if Buddhism says life is only pain. But this is not the case. The Buddha was not a pessimist, he was a realist. He did not turn away from life's beauty, but he refused to ignore its fragility. He saw that only by facing suffering directly can we discover the path to freedom. Denial keeps us trapped. Recognition sets us free. Consider how most of us respond to suffering. When we feel lonely, we distract ourselves. When we feel anxious, we overwork. When we feel empty, we consume. But these responses do not heal the root. They are like putting a fresh coat of paint on a house with a crumbling foundation. Sooner or later, the cracks reappear. Buddhism teaches us to go deeper, to see the foundation itself, to understand why the cracks form in the first place. And here is the hopeful part. If suffering has roots, then it can be uprooted. A tree may grow tall and seem immovable, but if you dig down and remove the roots, it cannot survive. In the same way, when we see clearly how craving, aversion, and ignorance shape our lives, we can begin to let them go. Every moment of mindfulness is like loosening the soil around those roots. Every act of compassion is like cutting a branch of suffering. Every insight into impermanence is like striking at the very base. Slowly, the tree weakens. Eventually, it falls. What does this mean in daily life? It means that the moments which once felt like punishment, moments of stress, disappointment, or fear, become opportunities for practice. When anxiety arises, we can ask, what am I craving right now? What am I resisting? When anger arises, we can ask, what truth am I refusing to accept? These questions do not eliminate pain instantly, but they shift our relationship to it. Instead of being crushed by suffering, we begin to learn from it. The Buddha compared his teachings to medicine. The illness is suffering. The diagnosis is the roots of craving, aversion, and ignorance. The cure is the path of mindfulness, ethics, and wisdom. And the promise is not just relief, but liberation. Not a happiness that depends on circumstances, but a peace that endures even when circumstances change. The roots of suffering may sound heavy, but in truth, they are a gift. Because once we see them, we no longer have to live blindly. We no longer have to run in circles, chasing illusions. We can step onto a path that leads somewhere real. A path where peace is not borrowed from possessions or achievements, but discovered in the simple act of being fully alive. So what does Buddhism reveal about the roots of suffering? It reveals that suffering is not a curse, not a punishment, not a sign of failure. It is part of being human. But it also reveals that suffering has causes, and what has causes can be transformed. The storm of craving can calm, the fire of aversion can cool, the fog of ignorance can lift, and beneath it all, there is a clear sky waiting vast, open, and free. To ignore suffering is to remain bound by it. To understand it is to begin the journey of liberation. And so, the Buddha invites us not to run, not to deny, but to look directly at our pain with courage and compassion. In doing so, we find that the very roots of suffering become the roots of awakening. If you pause for a moment, right here, and simply notice your breath, something begins to shift. The mind, which has been racing from thought to thought, slows just enough to reveal the present moment. This is the heart of mindfulness, not an abstract philosophy, not a distant practice for monks on mountains, but the simple, profound art of being here, now. The concept of mindfulness is both ancient and timeless. In Buddhism, it is called sati, a quality of awareness that allows us to see clearly what is happening without judgment, without grasping, without pushing away. It is not about forcing the mind to be empty, nor about escaping the world. It is about arriving fully in the reality of this very moment, whether it is pleasant or painful, ordinary or extraordinary. Why is this so important? Because most of us are rarely present. We may be physically in one place, but mentally we are scattered replaying yesterday's regrets, rehearsing tomorrow's fears, scrolling endlessly through distractions. We live in what could be called elsewhere. And the cost of living elsewhere is that we miss the only place life actually happens, here. Think of the last meal you ate. Did you truly taste each bite, or were you rushing, scrolling, thinking about something else? Think of the last conversation you had. Did you listen with your whole being, or were you already planning your reply? This is the human condition. We are alive, but not fully awake. Mindfulness is the invitation to wake up. The Buddha once described mindfulness as the path to the end of suffering. Why? because suffering is often amplified by our mind's refusal to stay with what is real. When we cling to the past, we suffer in memory. When we obsess about the future, we suffer in anticipation. But when we rest in the present, even if it is imperfect, we discover a kind of freedom. In the words of Thich Nhat Hanh, the present moment is filled with joy and happiness. If you are attentive, you will see it. Yet, mindfulness is more than simply paying attention. It is paying attention with a particular quality, with openness, with compassion, with non-judgment. To be mindful is not to scold ourselves when we are distracted, but to gently return, again and again, to the moment at hand. The practice is simple. Notice what is happening. Breathe, return, and repeat. But its effects are profound. Over time, mindfulness transforms how we see ourselves and the world. One of the common misconceptions is that mindfulness means detachment or passivity. In truth, it is the opposite. Mindfulness allows us to engage more fully with life because we are no longer lost in illusion. When we are mindful of the breath, we experience breathing not as background noise but as a miracle, the exchange of life itself. When we are mindful in walking, each step becomes a homecoming. When we are mindful in conversation, we truly hear the other person, and they feel truly seen. Far from detaching us, mindfulness roots us more deeply in connection. But mindfulness also reveals truths we might prefer to avoid. When we sit quietly, we notice restlessness, sadness, even pain. At first, this can be uncomfortable. We may think, mindfulness is making me anxious, but the anxiety was already there. What mindfulness does is shine a gentle light on what has been hidden, and in that light, healing becomes possible. For what is seen can be cared for. What is acknowledged can be transformed. Consider the metaphor of a garden. Without mindfulness, our mind is like untended soil, overrun with weeds of craving, anger, and distraction. We wonder why the flowers of peace and joy do not grow. With mindfulness, we begin to see what is really there. We notice the weeds, yes, but we also notice the seeds of compassion, kindness, and calm. With care, we can water those seeds. Over time, the garden changes. The weeds lose their dominance, and the flowers flourish. Mindfulness is not limited to meditation cushions. It belongs to every moment of daily life. Washing dishes can be a meditation. Driving can be a meditation. Even waiting in line can be a meditation if we use it as an opportunity to breathe, to notice, to return. This is why Buddhism emphasizes mindfulness in every activity. It is not about escaping the ordinary, but sanctifying it. The sacred is not somewhere else, it is here, hidden in plain sight, waiting for our attention. Science has begun to confirm what Buddhism has taught for centuries. Research shows that mindfulness reduces stress, improves focus, strengthens relationships, and even reshapes the brain in ways that support resilience and well-being. But beyond these benefits, mindfulness offers something deeper. It reconnects us with our own humanity. It reminds us that life is not a problem to be solved, but a mystery to be lived. And yet, for all its simplicity, mindfulness is not easy. The mind resists. It prefers distraction because distraction feels safer than silence. To sit quietly with ourselves is to face the truth of our lives, and that can be daunting. But here is the paradox. The very thing we avoid, silence, presence, stillness, is the very thing we most need. Mindfulness is the doorway. and each moment is an invitation to walk through it. Imagine waking up tomorrow and living the day with mindfulness. You rise and feel the coolness of the floor beneath your feet. You drink your tea or coffee and actually taste it, savoring its warmth. You drive to work and notice the sky, the trees, the rhythm of your breath. You speak with colleagues and truly listen without rushing to reply. You return home and eat dinner slowly, with gratitude. You end the day with awareness, resting in the present rather than being dragged into tomorrow. Such a day is not extraordinary in events, but extraordinary in depth. It is the same life, seen with different eyes. The concept of mindfulness and being present in each moment is not just theory, it is practice. A practice available to anyone, anywhere. It does not require special equipment, special rituals, or special status. It requires only willingness, the willingness to pause, to notice, to return. Every breath offers another chance. Every step is a new beginning. In the end, mindfulness is not something we do, it is something we remember. We remember to be here, we remember to be alive, we remember that this moment, fleeting and fragile, is enough. There is something so simple, so ordinary, that most of us overlook it every day. It is with us, from the moment we are born until the moment we die. It happens whether we notice it or not. And yet, hidden within it is the key to calm, to clarity, and to returning home to ourselves. That simple miracle is the breath. Breathing is often taken for granted because it never leaves us. We assume it is automatic, background, unimportant. But Buddhism teaches that the breath is more than a biological function. It is a bridge between body and mind, between chaos and calm, between distraction and presence. To follow the breath is to return to the present moment, gently, naturally, without force. Think of the last time you felt anxious. The chest tightens, the breath becomes shallow, quick, uneven. It feels as though the body itself is bracing for impact. In those moments, the mind may race uncontrollably, but the breath offers an anchor. When you pause to notice the inhale and the exhale, you begin to remember, I am here, I am alive, this moment is enough. The storm may still rage outside, but within the breath, there is a small island of peace. Why does breathing hold such power? Because it is both voluntary and involuntary. We can control it, but we do not need to. It is always there, waiting to guide us back. The Buddha recognized this long ago. In the Anapanasati Sutta, he taught mindfulness of breathing as a foundational practice. To breathe in with awareness, to breathe out with awareness, this simple act becomes the doorway to concentration, insight, and liberation. When we breathe mindfully, the body and mind begin to unite. Usually, the body is here, but the mind is elsewhere, thinking of yesterday, worrying about tomorrow. This separation is what fuels much of our suffering. But when we bring attention to the breath, body, and mind come together in the same place at the same time, we arrive fully. This arrival is the essence of peace. Consider the experience of a mindful inhale. The air enters, cool and refreshing. The chest expands, the lungs open. With a slow exhale, warmth flows out, tension softens, the body settles. If we follow just a few such breaths, we notice something extraordinary. The mind, which was scattered, begins to quiet. It does not mean all problems vanish, but for a moment, we are no longer lost in them. We are simply breathing, simply being. The power of breathing is also in its ability to reveal truth. Each breath reminds us of impermanence. The inhale arises, stays for a moment, then passes away. The exhale arises, stays for a moment, then passes away. Breath by breath, life unfolds in cycles of arising and passing. When we connect with this rhythm, we begin to understand impermanence not as a concept, but as a lived experience. We see that clinging to permanence is futile, and letting go becomes easier. In times of anger, mindful breathing is a refuge. The Buddha once advised, "When angry, do not speak. Take 3 breaths first." Those breaths can mean the difference between words that wound and words that heal. Anger may still be present, but the space created by breathing allows compassion to arise alongside it. In times of grief, breathing is a companion. It does not erase loss, but it holds us gently when the heart feels broken. Breathing in, I know I am alive. Breathing out, I hold my pain with tenderness. In this way, breath becomes both anchor and embrace a reminder that even in suffering, life continues, moment by moment. Modern science has begun to validate what Buddhism has long taught. Studies show that mindful breathing activates the parasympathetic nervous system, lowering stress, reducing blood pressure, calming the heart. Breathwork is now used in therapy, medicine, and wellness programs worldwide. But beyond the science, those who practice know this truth firsthand. The breath is always there, a faithful friend waiting to guide us home. Yet many resist such simplicity. We think, how can just breathing help me? My problems are too big. But the breath is not a solution to problems. It is a way of changing our relationship to them. When we breathe with awareness, we step out of the prison of overthinking. We stop being consumed by the problem and begin to find space around it. In that space, wisdom can arise. Solutions become clearer. Even if the situation remains the same, our mind becomes freer. Imagine you are standing at the edge of a stormy sea. Waves crash, winds howl. If you jump into the storm, you are tossed around, drowning in chaos. But if you step back and anchor yourself on the shore, you can observe the waves without being swallowed. Mindful breathing is that shore. The storms of life still come, but you are no longer drowning. You are steady, grounded, alive. Breathing also teaches compassion. When we breathe deeply, we nourish not only ourselves but also those around us. A calm person brings calm energy to others. A mindful parent, teacher, or friend becomes a refuge. In this way, each mindful breath is not only personal practice, it is a gift to the world. You do not need hours of meditation to experience this. A single conscious breath can change a moment. Before answering the phone, breathe once. Before opening your email, breathe once. Before speaking in anger, breathe once. These tiny pauses ripple outward, transforming the tone of our day. Over time, they transform the tone of our life. The power of breathing to return to the present lies in its simplicity. It does not demand effort beyond noticing. It does not ask us to escape reality, only to embrace it with clarity. Every breath is an invitation. Come back. You are here. You are alive. And perhaps this is the greatest gift of all, that the very act that sustains life also holds the key to living it fully. We spend our lives chasing after extraordinary moments, yet the miracle of the breath is always with us. Quiet, humble, waiting. When we honor it, when we breathe with awareness, the ordinary becomes extraordinary. The present moment so often overlooked, becomes enough. So let us return to the breath, again and again. For in each breath there is a beginning. In each breath there is peace. In each breath there is life. Most of us look at the world through a fogged window. We see, but not clearly. Our perceptions are colored by habits, judgments, fears, and desires. We don't just see reality, we see our version of reality, shaped by the stories our minds constantly tell. This is why we often misunderstand others, misinterpret events, and mistake illusions for truth. Buddhism offers a practice to clear that window, to help us see things as they truly are. That practice is insight meditation, or vipassana. Insight meditation is not about escaping the world or chasing mystical visions. It is about training the mind to observe reality directly, without the filters of craving, aversion, or ignorance. When we practice insight, we learn to notice what arises in the body and mind, to watch it come and go, without clinging, without pushing away. In this watching, something remarkable happens. The illusions begin to dissolve. We start to see the impermanence of all things, the interconnectedness of all life, and the emptiness of the false self we cling to so tightly. Imagine sitting quietly and noticing the simple act of breathing. At first, the mind wanders, as it always does. Thoughts appear, plans, regrets, distractions, but with patience, we begin to observe not just the breath, but the thoughts themselves. Ah, here is worry, here is memory, here is planning. Instead of being swept away, we watch them like clouds drifting across the sky. In this simple act of observation, we begin to see clearly. Thoughts are not facts. They arise, they pass. They do not define us. This is one of the liberating insights of vipassana. Everything is impermanent. The Buddha taught that all conditioned things are subject to change. When we look deeply, we see this truth everywhere. A pleasant feeling arises in the body. It is sweet, but it fades. A painful feeling arises, it hurts, but it too passes. Emotions surge and dissolve. Even the body itself is in constant flux, cells dying and renewing every moment. When we truly see this impermanence, clinging becomes less urgent. Why grasp so desperately at something that cannot last? Why resist so fiercely what will eventually fade? Another insight is the nature of suffering. By observing our own minds, we see how craving and aversion generate restlessness. A thought arises, I want this. We cling. Another thought arises, I hate that. We resist. The tug of war exhausts us. But in meditation, when we notice these movements without reacting, we taste a freedom beyond craving and aversion. We realize that suffering is not only caused by external events, it is fueled by how we relate to them. Change the relationship, and suffering softens. Perhaps the deepest insight is into the nature of self. We tend to believe we are a fixed identity. I am this person, with this story, this role, this personality. But in meditation, when we watch closely, this sense of I begins to dissolve. We see that what we call self is really a flow of changing thoughts, sensations, and experiences. Like a river, it has continuity, but no permanent essence. This does not mean we vanish. It means we stop clinging to a solid me that does not truly exist. With that release comes a vast freedom. The Buddha used a simple metaphor. He said the mind is like a mirror covered with dust. The dust is craving, aversion, ignorance. When we practice insight meditation, we wipe away the dust. The mirror reflects reality as it is clear, luminous, free. The world does not change, but our way of seeing it does. And when our perception changes, our whole life changes. But insight meditation is not always easy. When we sit in silence, we may encounter discomfort, old memories, hidden fears, emotions we have long avoided. Many people quit at this stage thinking, meditation makes me suffer more. But the suffering was already there, buried beneath the distractions of daily life. Insight meditation is like turning on a light in a dark room. At first, we may not like what we see, but without the light, we remain in ignorance. With the light, we can begin to clean, to heal, to transform. This practice also requires patience. Our culture values quick fixes, but insight grows slowly, like a tree. We water it with mindfulness. We nourish it with compassion. We protect it with steady practice. Day by day, the roots deepen. One day, without forcing it, the fruit of wisdom ripens. We see something clearly, and that clarity can never be unseen. Take, for example, anger. Before practice, anger may control us completely. A word, a look, a disappointment, and we explode. But with insight meditation, we begin to notice the sensations of anger, the heat in the chest, the tightness in the jaw, the racing thoughts. We see that anger is not me, but a passing phenomenon. We learn to observe it without becoming it. This doesn't mean we suppress anger, but that we meet it with awareness. In that meeting, anger begins to lose its power. This is insight in action, seeing anger as it truly is, impermanent, not self, and not worthy of our blind obedience. Insight meditation also reveals beauty. When the mind is calm and clear, even simple things shine. The sound of rain, the sight of a tree, the feeling of the breath all become profound. We realize we do not need extraordinary experiences to feel alive. Life itself, in its ordinariness, is extraordinary when seen clearly. And so, insight meditation is not just about sitting on a cushion, it is about transforming how we live. When we see impermanence, we cherish the present. When we see suffering, we grow compassion. When we see the illusion of self, we become freer, kinder, less entangled in ego. This is the gift of seeing things as they truly are. The Buddha once said, "Better than 1,000 words is one word that brings peace." Insight is that word. It does not just inform us, it transforms us. It shows us that beneath the fog of illusion, there is a clear sky. Beneath the dust of craving and fear, there is a luminous mind. And the path to that clarity begins simply with sitting, breathing, and seeing. So when we speak of insight meditation, we are not speaking of something distant or abstract. We are speaking of a practice available right now. You do not need to be a monk. You do not need to retreat to a cave. You need only the willingness to sit, to watch, to see. Bit by bit, moment by moment, the fog clears. And as it clears, life reveals itself fragile, fleeting, beautiful, enough. Imagine a bird trying to fly with only one wing. It flaps with all its might, but it cannot lift from the ground. No matter how much effort it makes, the flight will always be incomplete. In Buddhism, this is the image often used to describe the relationship between compassion and wisdom. They are like two wings. Only when both are present can the heart truly soar toward freedom and peace. Wisdom without compassion can become cold, detached, even harsh. Compassion without wisdom can become blind, exhausting itself without truly helping. But together, compassion and wisdom create balance. They guide us not only to see the truth clearly, but also to respond to that truth with kindness. This balance is the essence of inner peace. So, what is wisdom in the Buddhist sense? It is not simply knowledge, not the accumulation of facts or clever arguments. Wisdom is seeing reality as it is impermanent, interconnected, and empty of a fixed self. It is the insight that frees us from clinging and fear. Wisdom allows us to understand that suffering arises from craving and ignorance, and that freedom arises when we release them. But wisdom alone is not enough. We could understand impermanence intellectually and still feel lonely. We could grasp the concept of non-self and still treat others with indifference. This is where compassion comes in. Compassion is the natural response of the awakened heart. It is the willingness to feel another's pain, to wish for their well-being, to extend kindness even when it is difficult. Compassion sees suffering and says, "I am here with you. May you be free." The Buddha himself embodied this union. He did not simply awaken to the truth and remain in silence. Out of compassion, he spent decades teaching, walking from village to village, guiding others toward liberation. His wisdom revealed the path, but his compassion moved him to share it. Without both wings, his journey would not have reached so many hearts. In daily life, we can see how compassion and wisdom need each other. Take, for example, helping a loved one in distress. If we respond with only compassion, we may try to fix everything, carry their burden, or even sacrifice ourselves until we burn out. But if wisdom is present too, we recognize the limits of what we can do. We understand that each person must walk their own path, that our role is to support, not to control. Wisdom protects compassion from becoming overwhelming. On the other hand, if we respond with only wisdom, saying, "Suffering is impermanent, just let it go," we may sound dismissive, uncaring. The person may feel unseen, unheard. But when compassion joins wisdom, we say instead, "I know this pain is hard. I am here with you." The truth of impermanence is still there, but it is offered gently, with warmth. Compassion softens wisdom, making it human. The practice of mindfulness itself can nurture both wings. When we sit in meditation, observing thoughts and feelings, wisdom arises. We see their impermanence, their non-self nature. But as we sit with patience and gentleness, compassion arises too. We learn not to judge ourselves harshly for being distracted, not to scold the mind for wandering. Instead, we bring ourselves back with kindness. This is self-compassion, and it lays the foundation for compassion toward others. Thich Nhat Hanh often spoke of compassion and wisdom as understanding and love. Understanding is wisdom seeing deeply into the nature of things. Love is compassion, the wish to relieve suffering. He taught that true love cannot exist without understanding, and true understanding naturally gives rise to love. When we look deeply into someone's pain and truly understand it, love flows effortlessly. But how do we cultivate these two wings in our own lives? Wisdom grows through mindfulness, meditation, and reflection. By observing the impermanent, interdependent nature of reality, we loosen our grip on illusions. Compassion grows through opening our hearts, listening deeply, practicing kindness, extending empathy not only to those we love, but also to those who challenge us. And both wings grow stronger when we practice together with others, supporting each other on the path. It is also important to see that compassion is not limited to grand gestures. It can be as small as offering a smile, listening without interrupting, or sending silent wishes of well-being to a stranger. Wisdom is not limited to profound insights. It can be as simple as pausing before reacting, recognizing that our anger is temporary, or remembering that another person's harsh words come from their own suffering. These small acts are the daily movements of the wings. When both compassion and wisdom guide us, inner peace becomes possible even in difficult circumstances. The world may still present challenges, loss, injustice, uncertainty, but we meet them with clarity and kindness rather than confusion and hostility. We learn to hold suffering, our own and others, with a steady heart. This does not mean we never feel pain. It means we are no longer imprisoned by it. Think of a candle. Wisdom is the flame, giving light to see the truth. Compassion is the warmth, giving comfort to those in the dark. Without the flame, there is no clarity. Without the warmth, there is no healing. Together, they transform the darkness into a place of refuge. And so, when Buddhism speaks of liberation, it does not mean escaping from the world into cold detachment. It means living in the world with both wings fully open, seeing clearly, and loving deeply. The flight of the heart depends on both. In the end, compassion and wisdom are not separate practices. They are two aspects of the same awakening. To see reality as it is, wisdom, is to see suffering clearly. And to see suffering clearly is to respond with care, compassion. When we cultivate one, we inevitably strengthen the other. The bird of peace cannot fly with one wing, but with both, it rises gracefully into the open sky. And in that flight, we discover what inner peace truly means, not the absence of suffering, but the presence of a heart that sees and loves at the same time. Imagine standing at the base of a mountain. The peak is hidden by clouds, but you know that at the top lies freedom, peace, and clarity. To reach it, you cannot simply leap. You need a path, a steady way forward. In Buddhism, this path has been walked for centuries, guided by three essential qualities: morality, concentration, and wisdom. Together, they form the foundation for liberation. Morality, or sila, is the ground on which everything else stands. It is the choice to live in harmony with ourselves and others. Without morality, our lives are full of turmoil, conflict, and regret. When we act out of greed, anger, or selfishness, the mind cannot rest. But when we act with integrity, with honesty, kindness, non-harming, the mind becomes lighter. There is no need to hide, no need to carry guilt. Morality is not a set of rigid rules to obey blindly. It is a compass, pointing us toward a life that supports peace rather than undermines it. Think of it like tending a garden. If the soil is polluted, nothing wholesome will grow. Morality clears and enriches the soil of our lives. It creates the conditions for concentration to flourish. Without it, meditation becomes shallow, distracted by the weight of unwholesome actions. With it, meditation becomes fertile ground for deeper awareness. Concentration, or samadhi, is the training of the mind to rest deeply in the present. A scattered mind is like a restless monkey, leaping from branch to branch, never still long enough to see clearly. Concentration gathers the mind, steadying it like a lamp in a windless room. In this steadiness, we find calm, focus, and resilience. The Buddha often compared concentration to water. When stirred and muddy, we cannot see into it. But when still, the water becomes clear, reflecting reality as it is. In meditation, when the mind grows concentrated, insight naturally arises. We see impermanence, suffering, and non-self, not as abstract ideas, but as lived truth. Concentration gives us the stability to face reality without flinching, but concentration alone is not enough. A mind that is calm but lacks wisdom may remain attached, mistaking temporary calm for ultimate freedom. This is why wisdom, or panya, is the third and final pillar. Wisdom is the direct seeing of reality, the deep understanding that all things are impermanent, all things are interdependent, all things lack a fixed self. With wisdom, the knots of craving and ignorance untangle. We no longer chase illusions, nor do we run from truths. Instead, we rest in freedom, awake to life as it is. Together, these three: morality, concentration, wisdom, form what the Buddha called the threefold training. They are not separate steps to be completed one at a time, but interwoven aspects of a single path. Morality supports concentration. Concentration supports wisdom. Wisdom strengthens morality. They rise together like three legs of a tripod, steadying the path to liberation. Consider a simple example. A person decides to lie for personal gain. Immediately, the mind grows restless fear of being discovered, the burden of maintaining the deception. Meditation becomes difficult because the mind is agitated. Wisdom cannot arise in the midst of such turmoil. But if that person chooses honesty, the mind feels lighter. In meditation, they can rest more easily. As concentration deepens, they begin to see clearly. Lies harm both self and others. Wisdom arises, reinforcing the choice to live truthfully. The cycle turns upward, each aspect nourishing the others. The beauty of this path is its practicality. Morality is lived in our daily choices, how we speak, how we act, how we treat others. Concentration is cultivated in moments of mindfulness through meditation, through breathing, through presence in ordinary activities. Wisdom is nurtured through reflection, through insight, through seeing the impermanent and interdependent nature of all things. These are not distant ideals, but daily practices, available to anyone willing to walk the path. Some may think morality is restrictive, a list of don'ts, but in truth it is freeing. To refrain from harming, from lying, from stealing, from intoxicating the mind. These are not punishments, but protections. They protect our peace. They prevent the turmoil that arises when we act against our deepest values. Morality is not about limiting life, but about clearing away the behaviors that cloud it. Concentration, too, is sometimes misunderstood as rigid control of the mind. In reality, it is more like gentle training. Just as a musician practices scales to strengthen skill, or an athlete trains to strengthen the body, meditation trains the mind to rest. The discipline is gentle, patient, compassionate. Over time, the scattered thoughts settle naturally, and wisdom is not reserved for scholars or monks. It arises whenever we see clearly. When we recognize that anger is temporary, that a possession cannot bring lasting happiness, that another's harsh words come from their suffering, this is wisdom. Each small moment of clarity is a step toward liberation. The Buddha compared the path to a raft. We use it to cross the river of suffering. Once we reach the other shore, we do not carry the raft on our back. We let it go. In the same way, morality, concentration, and wisdom are practices that carry us toward freedom. They are not ends in themselves, but means to awakening. When we bring these three into harmony, life transforms. With morality, we live lightly. With concentration, we rest deeply. With wisdom, we see clearly. Together, they free us from the endless cycle of craving and fear. They do not remove all challenges, but they change our relationship to them. The storms of life may still come, but we stand like a mountain rooted, steady, unshaken. And perhaps the most profound truth is this: liberation is not found in some distant future, but in the very practice of these three trainings here and now. Each moment of kindness is a taste of liberation. Each breath of concentration is a taste of liberation. Each glimpse of wisdom is a taste of liberation. Step by step, breath by breath, we climb the mountain. And one day, the clouds part, and we see that the peak has been here all along within us. The way we begin the morning often sets the tone for the entire day. Think of the mornings when you woke up, rushing alarm blaring, phone in hand before even leaving bed, mind already flooded with emails, deadlines, and worries. Those mornings rarely unfold peacefully. Instead, the stress of the first few moments leaks into every hour that follows. By lunchtime, you are already exhausted. By evening, you wonder where the day went and why you feel so drained. Now, imagine a different morning. You wake not with noise but with awareness. Before reaching for your phone, before stepping into the chaos of schedules, you pause, you breathe, you sit quietly, even for a few minutes, and allow your mind to settle. You give yourself the gift of presence. This simple shift morning meditation can change not only the flavor of your day, but the rhythm of your life. Buddhism teaches us that the mind is like a pond. When stirred, the water becomes cloudy. When still, it reflects clearly. The early morning, when the world is still quiet, is the perfect time to allow the pond of the mind to settle. The stillness of dawn supports our own stillness, and in that silence, clarity arises. Morning meditation is not complicated. It does not require elaborate rituals or hours of practice. It begins with intention. When you wake, instead of rushing immediately into tasks, you choose to pause. You sit comfortably on a cushion, on a chair, even on the edge of your bed. You close your eyes gently and turn your attention inward. You breathe in, aware that you are breathing in. You breathe out, aware that you are breathing out. Nothing more, nothing less. At first, the mind will wander. Thoughts about yesterday, plans for today, stray memories, all will appear. This is natural. The practice is not to stop thoughts, but to notice them. Thinking is here. And then, gently, return to the breath. Each return is like bringing the mind home. Each return strengthens clarity. Why is this practice so powerful in the morning? Because it creates space. Before the demands of the day flood in, you claim a moment for yourself. You remind yourself that you are not just a machine for tasks, not just a body rushing through routines. You are a living being, capable of awareness, peace, and choice. This space protects you. It allows you to step into the day with intention rather than being dragged by momentum. Even 5 minutes of morning meditation can make a difference. In those minutes, you may notice the body waking, the breath deepening, the mind settling. You may begin to feel gratitude simply for being alive, for having another day to live, to learn, to love. Gratitude itself is a form of clarity. It shifts the mind from lack to fullness, from fear to presence. Morning meditation also softens the grip of anxiety. Often, stress begins before the day even starts. The mind jumps ahead to meetings, to responsibilities, to possible conflicts. But when you breathe with awareness, you remind yourself, those moments are not here yet. Only this moment is real, and in this moment, you are safe. This realization calms the nervous system, setting a foundation of steadiness for whatever the day brings. There are many forms of morning meditation. Some prefer silent breathing. Others use guided meditations, listening to gentle instructions. Some practice loving kindness, silently repeating phrases such as, "May I be safe, may I be peaceful, may I live with ease." This simple practice plants seeds of compassion in the heart, which then extend to others throughout the day. However you choose to practice, the essence remains the same. Pausing, noticing, arriving fully in the present before stepping into the stream of activity. Morning meditation also helps us see the difference between reacting and responding. Without mindfulness, we react automatically to the day, annoyed at traffic, stressed by emails, irritated by small inconveniences. But with the clarity cultivated in the morning, we create a pause between stimulus and response. Instead of reacting blindly, we respond with awareness. Traffic becomes an opportunity to breathe. Emails become opportunities to practice patience. Challenges become opportunities to practice compassion. This shift may sound small, but over time, it transforms how we live. There is a saying, "Win the morning, win the day." In Buddhism, it might be expressed differently. Settle the mind in the morning, settle the heart for the day. The calm we cultivate in those early moments ripples outward. It influences our words, our actions, our relationships. A calm morning can prevent a harsh word that might have hurt someone. A clear morning can inspire a wise decision. A compassionate morning can soften a difficult interaction. These ripples matter, and morning meditation does not need to be long or formal. If you have only 3 minutes, breathe mindfully for 3 minutes. If you have 10, sit for 10. The point is not the length, but the intention. Over time, you may find yourself naturally drawn to extend the practice, not because you should, but because you taste its benefits. The clarity it brings becomes a nourishment you do not want to miss. For those who struggle with consistency, it can help to create a ritual. Choose a specific place in your home for meditation, even a small corner with a cushion or chair. Light a candle, ring a bell, or simply bow as you begin. These small gestures signal to the mind, "Now I am entering stillness." With time, the ritual itself becomes comforting, a doorway into presence. Morning meditation is also a reminder of impermanence. Each day is new, never to be repeated. To sit in the morning is to honor that truth. This day is precious, this moment is precious. Life is fragile, and meditation is a way of saying, "I will not rush past it. I will live it fully." Perhaps the greatest gift of morning meditation is that it turns an ordinary morning into something sacred. The rising sun, the quiet air, the sound of birds all become part of the practice. You are not separate from the world, you are breathing with it, waking with it, alive within it. This sense of connection, of belonging, is itself clarity. So tomorrow morning, before the world pulls you into its storm, try pausing, sit, breathe, notice. Even if your mind is restless, even if it feels imperfect, it is enough. The clarity you seek is not somewhere far away. It is waiting in the breath, in the stillness, in the choice to begin the day with awareness. Morning meditation is not about achieving something extraordinary. It is about remembering what is already here: life, breath, presence. And when you begin your day from that place, the rest of the day unfolds differently. The mountain of tasks may still be there, but you climb it with steadiness. The storm of life may still blow, but you walk through it with clarity. And clarity, once tasted, becomes the compass guiding you home. Again and again, work consumes a large part of our lives. Whether in an office, a classroom, a shop, or at home, we spend countless hours focused on tasks, deadlines, and responsibilities. And yet, how often do we find ourselves exhausted, burned out, and strangely unsatisfied, despite working harder and harder? We push ourselves to do more, but the more we do, the less fulfilled we feel. Buddhism offers a different way, an approach rooted in mindfulness, where the secret to productivity and peace lies not in doing more, but in doing less with full awareness. Imagine two people working side by side. One rushes through tasks frantically, multitasking, constantly answering emails while on the phone, planning the next project while finishing the current one. By the end of the day, they are drained, and much of their work is filled with errors and overlooked details. The other person moves more slowly, focusing on one task at a time, pausing to breathe, bringing presence to each action. At the end of the day, their work is steady, clear, and meaningful. They may have done fewer tasks, but what they did was done with care. Which life feels lighter? Which work has more depth? Mindfulness at work is not about working less in terms of effort. It is about working differently, bringing awareness to each task so that our energy is not scattered. The Buddha often emphasized the importance of right effort. Right effort is not frantic striving. It is balanced energy, directed toward what matters. When we are mindful at work, we conserve energy instead of leaking it through stress and distraction. Think of how much energy is lost each day to worry, comparison, and unnecessary multitasking. We may spend an hour on a task, but only half of that time truly working. The rest spent switching tabs, checking messages, or replaying conversations in our heads. Mindfulness interrupts this cycle. By training ourselves to notice when the mind drifts and gently returning to the task, we harness our energy like sunlight focused through a lens. Suddenly, the work becomes sharper, clearer, more efficient. But mindfulness at work is not only about productivity, it is also about sanity. The workplace can be a breeding ground for stress pressures from bosses, conflicts with colleagues, endless deadlines. Without mindfulness, we react impulsively, letting anger or fear dictate our responses. With mindfulness, we create a pause. In that pause, we find freedom. We can choose to respond with clarity rather than react with confusion. For example, imagine receiving a harsh email. Without mindfulness, you might fire back instantly, words sharp with frustration. With mindfulness, you breathe. You notice the heat in your chest, the tightening in your jaw. You give yourself space. And then, perhaps, you see the email differently, not as a personal attack, but as a reflection of the sender's stress. You reply with calm, or maybe you choose to wait before responding. The situation that could have escalated into conflict instead becomes an opportunity for wisdom. Mindfulness also changes the way we relate to success and failure at work. Often, our identity becomes tangled with our career. A compliment inflates us, a criticism deflates us. We ride a roller coaster of self-worth, depending on external feedback. But when we practice mindfulness, we begin to see work for what it is, an expression of effort, not the measure of our value. Success feels lighter because we no longer cling to it as proof of who we are. Failure feels lighter because we see it as part of learning, not as proof of inadequacy. Doing less but achieving more also applies to meetings, projects, and goals. How many hours are wasted in meetings where no one is truly present, where people half listen while planning their next response? What if, instead, we practiced mindful listening, hearing not just words but the intention behind them, pausing before speaking, creating space for genuine understanding? Such meetings might be shorter, but far more productive. The same principle applies to projects. Instead of scattering ourselves across countless tasks, mindfulness encourages us to focus on what truly matters. What is the essence of this work? What will bring real value? By letting go of the unnecessary, we channel our effort into what counts. In this way, doing less actually allows us to achieve more clarity, more depth, more meaningful impact. Mindfulness also softens our relationships at work. So much stress comes not from tasks themselves, but from how we relate to one another: misunderstandings, judgments, competition. When we practice mindfulness, we remember that each colleague is a human being, carrying their own struggles, fears, and hopes. We listen more, judge less, and treat others with compassion. A workplace grounded in mindfulness becomes not just more productive, but more humane. Science supports this ancient wisdom. Studies show that employees who practice mindfulness report less stress, greater focus, and higher job satisfaction. Companies that encourage mindfulness see improved collaboration and creativity. But beyond the statistics, those who practice know the difference in their own hearts. Work no longer feels like a battlefield. It becomes a field of practice, a place to grow presence, patience, and purpose. Of course, challenges remain. Workplaces are often fast-paced, demanding. Mindfulness does not erase deadlines or remove difficult bosses, but it gives us tools to meet these challenges without being consumed by them. A single mindful breath before answering a call, a short pause before rushing into the next task, a moment of gratitude before ending the day. These small practices accumulate, transforming not just how we work, but who we are as we work. Ultimately, mindfulness at work is about remembering that we are not machines. We are not defined by output alone. We are human beings, and our deepest value comes not from how much we do, but from how present we are while doing it. A life spent rushing blindly through tasks is not a life fully lived, but a life where even work is infused with mindfulness. That is a life of depth and meaning. So tomorrow, when you sit at your desk, before diving into the flood of tasks, pause, breathe, ask yourself, what is the most important thing right now? Then give that task your full attention. Do it with care, with presence, with clarity. You may find that in doing less, you accomplish more, not just in work, but in life itself. Food is one of the most ordinary parts of life, yet also one of the most sacred. Every day we eat, often without thinking, rushing through meals while scrolling on phones, watching television, or planning the next task. Eating becomes just another item on the to-do list. But what if eating could be more than filling the stomach? What if every meal could become a moment of healing, gratitude, and connection? This is the art of mindful eating, a practice that Buddhism elevates from routine to ritual, from habit to meditation. Mindful eating begins with awareness. Before taking the first bite, we pause. We look at the food in front of us, noticing its colors, textures, and aromas. We reflect on the journey it took to reach our table, the farmer who planted the seed, the rain that nourished the soil, the sun that gave warmth, the hands that harvested and prepared it. Suddenly, the plate before us is not just food, it is a tapestry of life, a miracle of interconnection. To eat mindfully is to honor that miracle. Contrast this with how we often eat. In a hurry, distracted, sometimes even stressed. We shovel food in without tasting it, finishing a meal only to realize we barely noticed it. The body is fed, but the heart remains hungry. We miss the chance to truly nourish ourselves. This kind of eating often leads to overconsumption, indigestion, and even guilt. But when we eat with mindfulness, a transformation occurs. A single bite becomes rich, satisfying. We realize that we need less to feel full, because we are feeding not only the body but the soul. Mindful eating is also an act of healing. Many of us carry complicated relationships with food, using it for comfort when stressed, punishing ourselves with diets, or feeling shame about how or what we eat. Buddhism encourages us to release judgment and approach eating with compassion. Instead of labeling food as good or bad, we approach each meal with curiosity and kindness. How does this food nourish me? How does it make me feel? This shift turns eating from a battlefield into a sanctuary. In Buddhist monasteries, meals are often taken in silence. The sound of chewing, the rhythm of breathing, the awareness of every bite become part of meditation. Eating is no longer separate from practice, it is practice. Each spoonful is an opportunity to return to the present moment. Each swallow is a reminder of gratitude. We may not live in monasteries, but we can bring the same spirit into our own homes. Try this experiment. The next time you eat, put away distractions. Sit quietly with your food. Before lifting the fork, breathe. Notice the colors, the shapes, the smells. Take a bite and chew slowly, tasting fully. Feel the textures. Notice the flavors unfolding. Swallow gently, aware of the nourishment entering your body. Continue this way for just a few bites. You may find that the meal feels entirely different, richer, calmer, more satisfying. Mindful eating also deepens our awareness of the body. As we slow down, we begin to notice hunger and fullness cues more clearly. We eat when we are hungry, and we stop when we are satisfied, not when the plate is empty or when emotions drive us. This natural rhythm promotes health, balance, and respect for the body's wisdom. Over time, mindful eating can heal cycles of overeating, guilt, or mindless consumption. But mindful eating is not only about personal health, it also extends compassion outward. When we reflect on the food before us, we see the countless beings involved in its creation. The animals, plants, farmers, laborers, even the earth itself. Gratitude naturally leads to responsibility. We may choose to waste less, to eat more sustainably, to support practices that honor rather than harm life. In this way, mindful eating becomes an act of kindness not only toward ourselves, but toward the world. There is also joy in mindful eating, So often, we eat quickly, missing the pleasure of food. But when we slow down, even simple meals become delightful. A fresh apple, crisp and sweet. A bowl of rice, warm and grounding. A sip of tea, fragrant and soothing. Mindfulness turns eating into celebration, reminding us that life's beauty is not only in extraordinary experiences, but also in ordinary moments, repeated daily. And mindful eating is not limited to meals. It can be practiced with a single cup of tea or coffee. Thich Nhat Hanh often taught tea meditation, holding the cup gently, feeling its warmth, breathing in the aroma, tasting slowly, aware of each sip. In those moments, tea is not just tea, it is the earth, the rain, the sun, the entire cosmos in liquid form. Drinking mindfully, we touch life itself. Of course, in modern life, eating every meal in silence may not be realistic. Families gather, conversations flow, time is limited. Mindfulness does not demand perfection. Even in conversation, we can slow down, chew with awareness, savor the food. Even in busy days, we can take a few mindful bites before moving on. The point is not to transform every meal into ritual, but to infuse each meal with presence. What happens when we practice this consistently? The table becomes a place of peace rather than rush. The body feels nourished, not just filled. The mind learns to slow down, to savor, to be here. And over time, we notice that this way of eating spills into the rest of life. If we can eat mindfully, perhaps we can work mindfully, walk mindfully, live mindfully. The table becomes a training ground for awareness. So tonight or tomorrow morning, when you sit down to eat, try this. Pause. Look at your food as if seeing it for the first time. Take a slow breath. Then begin. Not with haste, but with reverence. Let each bite remind you of the miracle of life, the gift of nourishment, the presence of this moment. The art of mindful eating is not about rules or restrictions. It is about relationship. The relationship between you and your body, you and your food, you and the web of life that sustains you. When we eat this way, meals become medicine, the table becomes sacred, and eating becomes an act of healing. Human beings are emotional creatures. We laugh, we cry, we celebrate, we grieve. Emotions color our days, shaping how we see the world and how we act within it. Some emotions feel light and uplifting, like joy or love. Others feel heavy, even overwhelming anger that burns, anxiety that tightens, fear that paralyzes. These difficult emotions are part of life, yet so often we try to fight them, suppress them, or run away from them. Buddhism teaches a different approach, not to deny emotions, not to drown in them, but to transform them with mindfulness and compassion. Let's begin with anger. Everyone knows its heat. A harsh word, a betrayal, an injustice, and suddenly the chest tightens, the jaw clenches, the voice sharpens. Anger can feel powerful, even intoxicating, but it often leaves destruction in its wake. Relationships fracture, words are spoken that cannot be taken back, and afterward we are left with regret. The Buddha compared anger to holding a burning coal with the intention of throwing it at another person who gets burned first. Yet, anger itself is not the enemy. It is a signal pointing to pain. Beneath anger is often hurt, fear, or unmet needs. When we practice mindfulness, we learn to look beneath the surface. Instead of saying, "I am angry," we can say, "Hello, anger, I see you." We breathe with it, hold it gently, like a parent holding a crying child. In that space, anger begins to soften. Insight arises. I am angry because I feel disrespected, because I feel unheard, because I am afraid of losing something I value. With this clarity, we can respond more wisely. Thich Nhat Hanh taught that anger is like a storm. You cannot calm the storm with shouting or violence, but if you breathe, if you take care of your body, the storm passes on its own. The practice is not to suppress anger, but to embrace it with mindfulness. When we do this, anger transforms into understanding, and understanding can transform into compassion. Now let us turn to anxiety. Anxiety is the unease that creeps in when the future feels uncertain. It can feel like a tightening in the chest, a constant buzzing in the mind, a weight that never lifts. In modern life, anxiety is everywhere, worrying about finances, careers, relationships, health, even the state of the world. We try to predict, control, prepare, but no amount of planning erases the unknown. Buddhism offers relief by inviting us back to the present moment. Anxiety thrives on what-ifs. Mindfulness answers with what is. When we breathe with awareness, we realize, in this moment, I am safe. In this moment, I am alive. The imagined fears of tomorrow dissolve in the reality of now. This does not mean we ignore responsibilities. It means we face them with clarity instead of being consumed by fear. Insight also helps. Anxiety often comes from clinging to control in a world that is uncontrollable. By seeing impermanence clearly, we learn to accept uncertainty as part of life. The future is unknown, yes, but it is always unknown. Freedom comes when we stop demanding certainty and learn to trust our capacity to meet whatever arises, one breath at a time. And then there is fear, the most primal of emotions. Fear protects us when danger is real, but in modern times, much of our fear is imagined. We fear failure, rejection, loss, death. Fear can freeze us, preventing us from living fully. But Buddhism teaches that fear, like anger and anxiety, is also a teacher. When we look deeply, we see that fear arises from attachment, fear of losing what we love, fear of losing who we believe we are. By recognizing impermanence, by touching the truth that everything changes, fear loses its absolute power. The Buddha did not say we must eliminate fear. He taught us to meet it with courage and compassion. Courage does not mean the absence of fear. It means walking with fear, hand in hand, without letting it control us. Compassion means recognizing that fear is universal. Everyone feels it. In acknowledging our own fear, we grow softer toward the fears of others. So how do we practice transforming these emotions? The first step is awareness. When anger arises, notice it. When anxiety arises, name it. When fear arises, breathe with it. Naming and noticing create space. Instead of being swept away, we become observers. Here is anger. Here is fear. This simple recognition begins the transformation. The second step is compassion. Rather than judging ourselves for having difficult emotions, we hold them gently. It's okay to feel this. This is part of being human. Just as we would comfort a child in distress, we comfort ourselves. This kindness softens the sharp edges of emotion. The third step is insight. By looking deeply, we ask, what is beneath this anger? What belief is feeding this anxiety? What attachment is fueling this fear? Insight does not always come immediately, but with patience, patterns emerge. We begin to see the roots, and once we see the roots, we can loosen them. Over time, we discover that emotions are like weather. Storms of anger, clouds of anxiety, winds of fear, they come, they go. We are not the weather, we are the sky. The sky is vast enough to hold all storms without being destroyed. This is the freedom mindfulness reveals. And so, anger transforms into clarity about what we value. Anxiety transforms into presence, reminding us to live here and now. Fear transforms into compassion, connecting us with the fragility we all share. None of these emotions need to define us. They are visitors, and we can welcome them, learn from them, and let them go. Imagine living this way, meeting anger without lashing out, meeting anxiety without drowning, meeting fear without paralysis. Life would still bring challenges, but we would no longer be imprisoned by them. This is the art of transforming emotions, and it is not reserved for saints or monks. It is available to each of us, every day, in every breath. So the next time anger rises, breathe. The next time anxiety spins, pause. The next time fear whispers, listen with kindness. These emotions are not enemies. They are guides, pointing us toward healing, toward wisdom, toward compassion. When we embrace them, we discover that even the darkest storms carry seeds of light. Human life is woven out of relationships. We are born into families, grow within communities, and move through the world surrounded by others. Even those who claim to prefer solitude cannot escape the truth. Our lives are deeply interconnected. And yet, despite this truth, relationships are often the source of our greatest suffering. Misunderstandings, conflicts, unspoken pain, all arise when we fail to see and hear one another clearly. Buddhism offers us a way to transform relationships through compassion and deep listening. Compassion, at its heart, is the willingness to step into another's shoes, to feel their suffering as our own, and to wish for their well-being. It is not pity, which looks down on others, but solidarity, which stands beside them. Deep listening is the natural expression of compassion. It is the practice of giving someone our full attention, not just to their words, but to the heart behind them. Together, compassion and deep listening are like water for a thirsty soul. They heal wounds, build bridges, and create spaces where peace can take root. Think about the last time you truly felt heard. Someone looked at you without distraction, listened without interrupting, and accepted your words without judgment. How did it feel? Perhaps you felt lighter, as if a burden had been lifted simply by being understood. Now think about the opposite times when you spoke but were ignored, dismissed, or misunderstood. That pain can linger for years. Deep listening is rare, but when practiced, it becomes one of the most powerful gifts we can offer. The Buddha himself was called the Great Listener. People came to him with anger, confusion, grief, and he listened without judgment. Through his presence, they found clarity and healing even before receiving guidance. This is the power of compassionate listening. It does not need to fix everything. It simply creates space where healing naturally begins. But listening deeply is not easy. Our minds are restless, quick to judge, eager to respond. We half listen while planning what to say next. We assume we already know what the other person means. We filter their words through our own fears and biases. True listening requires us to set aside these habits. It requires us to be fully present, moment by moment, with another human being. To listen deeply, we must first cultivate inner stillness. If our own mind is noisy with anger or distraction, we cannot hear others clearly. This is why mindfulness is essential. By breathing, pausing, and grounding ourselves, we create the spaciousness needed to listen without getting lost in reactivity. With that stillness, we can open our ears and hearts to the person before us. Compassion also means listening beneath the surface. Often, what people say is only a small part of what they truly feel. A harsh tone may hide insecurity, silence may hide grief, complaints may hide loneliness. When we listen with compassion, we look beyond the words, sensing the pain beneath them. Instead of reacting to the harshness, we ask, what is this person truly suffering from? That shift in perspective changes everything. For example, imagine a colleague snaps at you during a meeting. Without mindfulness, you might snap back, escalating conflict. With compassion, you pause and consider, perhaps they are overwhelmed. Perhaps they are carrying stress from home. Perhaps this anger is not about me. This does not excuse harmful behavior, but it allows us to respond with understanding rather than hostility. And often, that small shift is enough to transform the entire interaction. Deep listening also requires humility. We must release the need to be right, to prove, to fix. Sometimes, people do not need solutions, they need to be heard. When we rush to fix, we may miss what the person truly longs for. Presence, a simple, I hear you, I understand this is hard, can be more healing than 1,000 solutions. In families, compassion and deep listening are especially vital. Many conflicts between parents and children, partners or siblings, arise not from malice but from not feeling understood. A child acts out because they do not feel seen. A partner grows distant because they feel unheard. But when we practice deep listening, we send a different message. You matter, your voice matters, your heart matters. This alone can begin to mend even long-standing wounds. Thich Nhat Hanh often taught a simple practice for healing relationships. Listen with only one purpose, to help the other person suffer less. This means putting aside judgment, advice, and even defense. It means offering silence, presence, and care. It is not easy, especially when we feel attacked or blamed. But if we can hold our own pain with mindfulness, we create space to hold another's pain with compassion. Compassion in relationships also extends beyond listening. It is expressed in patience, forgiveness, and kindness. It is remembering that every person we meet carries unseen struggles. The stranger on the street, the cashier at the store, the co-worker at the desk, all are fighting battles we cannot see. A gentle smile, a kind word, a moment of patience can make an invisible difference. Of course, compassion does not mean allowing ourselves to be harmed. Boundaries are also an expression of compassion toward ourselves and others. To say, I will not allow harm, is to protect both parties, because enabling harm perpetuates suffering. True compassion is wise. It balances care with clarity. When we bring compassion and deep listening into our daily lives, relationships transform, conflicts soften, misunderstandings heal, trust grows. Even if others do not change, our own hearts change. We move from defensiveness to openness, from isolation to connection. Life feels less like a battlefield and more like a shared journey. Imagine a world where everyone practiced this even a little, where families listened without judgment, workplaces practiced empathy, communities extended patience, nations approached one another with compassion, the world's wounds would not vanish overnight, but they would begin to heal. And healing always begins with one moment, one choice, one heart willing to listen. So tonight or tomorrow, when someone speaks to you, pause, put down the phone, meet their eyes, breathe. Listen not just to their words but to their heart. Respond not with haste, but with compassion. This practice may seem small, but it is profound. For when we relate to others with compassion and deep listening, we are not just improving relationships, we are cultivating peace itself. Stress is one of the defining features of modern life. It creeps in quietly and sometimes arrives with force, gripping the chest, tightening the jaw, quickening the heartbeat. A small inconvenience can trigger it, or a major life event can magnify it until it feels unbearable. Stress can come from the outside demands at work, financial struggles, conflicts at home, but it also grows from the inside, from the way our minds respond to pressure and uncertainty. Most of us meet stress by trying to escape it. We distract ourselves with entertainment, numb ourselves with food or alcohol, or push ourselves harder, hoping to outwork the tension. But stress is not a problem to run from, it is a signal to listen to. The Buddha taught that suffering itself can be a teacher, pointing us toward truth. Stress, too, is a messenger. It whispers, slow down, come home to yourself, breathe. Returning to the breath and body is one of the simplest and most powerful ways to meet stress. When stress strikes, the mind races ahead with worries. What if I fail? What if things go wrong? What if I can't handle this? But the body is always here, in the present. By shifting attention from the chaos of thought to the grounding of the body, we step out of the storm and into a place of steadiness. The breath is the doorway. It is always available, always moving, always anchoring us to the here and now. When stress arises, begin by noticing the breath, not forcing it, not judging it, simply noticing. Breathing in, I know I am breathing in. Breathing out, I know I am breathing out. This simple awareness begins to calm the nervous system. The racing mind slows. The body remembers that it is safe. Science confirms what Buddhism has long taught. Slow, mindful breathing activates the parasympathetic nervous system, the body's natural relaxation response. Heart rate lowers, blood pressure steadies, muscles release tension. Stress does not vanish, but it loses its grip. The storm may still be there, but we are no longer swept away by it. After connecting with the breath, we can return to the body. Stress often hides in physical tension, shoulders hunched, stomach tight, jaw clenched. By scanning the body with awareness, we notice these places of holding. As we breathe into them, we gently release. Sometimes, just rolling the shoulders, unclenching the fists, or relaxing the belly can shift the entire state of mind. The body becomes a refuge, a reminder that presence is always available. This practice does not require hours of meditation. It can be done in the middle of a stressful meeting, during an argument, or while stuck in traffic. One conscious breath, one moment of releasing the shoulders, one gentle return to the body. These small acts accumulate, transforming how we meet stress. For example, imagine standing in a long line, growing impatient. Stress rises. Why is this taking so long? I'm wasting time. In that moment, instead of feeding the frustration, pause, breathe, feel your feet on the ground. Notice the air entering and leaving your lungs. Suddenly, the line is no longer an enemy. it becomes a place of practice. The stress softens, replaced by presence. Or consider a heated conversation. Stress surges, words sharpen, emotions flare. Before reacting, pause. Take 3 slow breaths. Feel the breath in the belly, the rise and fall of the chest. In those breaths, you create space, a space where choice becomes possible. Instead of reacting with anger, you respond with clarity. That shift can change the entire outcome of the conversation. The Buddha compared the untrained mind to a monkey, restless, reactive, always leaping. Stress feeds this monkey, making it wilder, but the breath and body are like the tree where the monkey can rest. Each time we return, we tame the restlessness, teaching the mind to settle. Over time, this settling becomes a habit. Stress may still arise, but we are quicker to recognize it, quicker to return, quicker to find calm. It is important to note that returning to the breath and body does not mean ignoring problems. It is not an escape from reality. Instead, it is a way of meeting reality with steadiness. When the mind is calm, we see solutions more clearly. When the body is relaxed, we have more energy to act wisely. In this way, returning to the breath and body is not withdrawal. It is preparation for skillful action. There is a story of a monk who faced many challenges. When asked how he remained calm, he said, "When I breathe, I breathe. When I walk, I walk. When I sit, I sit." His secret was not complicated, it was presence. Stress could not control him because he refused to abandon the present moment. We can all practice this. Begin each morning with a few mindful breaths. Throughout the day, pause often before answering the phone, before sending an email, before speaking in frustration. Let each pause be a return to the body, a reminder, I am here, I am alive, I am not my stress. Over time, we learn that stress is not an enemy, but a teacher. It teaches us where we are clinging, where we are resisting, where we have left the present moment. By returning to the breath and body, we transform stress from a burden into an invitation to come home to ourselves. So the next time stress strikes, do not run, do not fight. Pause, breathe, feel your body. In that simple return, you will find a refuge that no storm can destroy. Loneliness is one of the quietest forms of suffering. It often hides behind smiles, busyness, or casual conversations, yet inside it feels like an ache that never fully leaves. Emptiness, its silent companion, can creep in even when we are surrounded by people, even when life looks full from the outside. Together, loneliness and emptiness are among the most misunderstood experiences of human life, and also among the most universal. We live in a time of constant connection. Phones buzz with messages, social media scrolls endlessly, and the world is available in the palm of our hands. Yet, despite this, many report feeling lonelier than ever. Why? Because true connection is not measured by the number of contacts or followers, but by the depth of presence. We can be in a crowded room and still feel invisible. We can be liked by thousands online and still feel unknown. Loneliness is not the absence of people, it is the absence of true communion. Emptiness, on the other hand, runs even deeper. It is the haunting sense that life lacks meaning, that no matter what we achieve or acquire, something is missing. It can arise after loss, after disappointment, or even after success, when we realize that the joy we expected does not last. This emptiness can feel terrifying, like staring into a vast void within ourselves. Many of us rush to fill it with work, relationships, entertainment, possessions, but the more we try to fill it, the deeper it seems to grow. Buddhism offers a profound perspective on both loneliness and emptiness. It does not tell us to deny them or distract ourselves. Instead, it invites us to face them with courage and compassion. Loneliness, it teaches, is not proof that we are broken. It is proof that we are human, wired for connection. Emptiness, it teaches, is not a curse. It is a doorway, an opening to see life more deeply than before. Let us first consider loneliness. When we sit quietly and feel the ache of isolation, the instinct may be to run, to pick up the phone, to scroll through distractions, to fill the silence. But when we stay, when we breathe with the loneliness, something begins to shift. We see that loneliness is not just a void, it is a longing to be seen, to be understood, to belong. And this longing is not shameful, it is the seed of compassion. Because when we recognize our own loneliness, we can recognize it in others. We see that every person we meet carries hidden aches, invisible longings. Our loneliness connects us rather than separates us. Now consider emptiness. In Buddhism, emptiness, shunyata, is not the bleak void we often imagine. It is the recognition that nothing exists independently. Everything is interdependent, arising through countless causes and conditions. A flower is not just a flower, it is the rain, the soil, the sun, the gardener. Likewise, we are not isolated selves, but woven into the fabric of all life. When we mistake ourselves as separate, emptiness feels like a hollow ache. But when we see interconnection, emptiness becomes fullness, the fullness of being part of something vast and alive. Thich Nhat Hanh once said, "We are here to awaken from the illusion of our separateness." Loneliness and emptiness are powerful invitations to awaken. They remind us that connection and meaning are not found in constant activity, but in deep presence with ourselves, with others, with life itself. How do we practice this in daily life? The first step is to face loneliness and emptiness directly, without running. When the ache arises, breathe with it. Place a hand on your heart and say, "I see you, loneliness. I am here with you." This simple act of self-compassion begins to soften the sharpness. Instead of being consumed, we begin to hold it gently, like cradling a fragile bird. The second step is to cultivate true connection. This does not mean adding more names to our contact list, but deepening the connections we already have. It means listening fully when someone speaks, offering presence without distraction. It means reaching out, not with small talk, but with authenticity. True connection arises not from quantity, but from quality, from moments when hearts meet openly. The third step is to embrace the Buddhist teaching of interbeing. When we feel empty, we can practice looking deeply into the world around us. See the sky reflected in a drop of water. See the earth's history in a single stone. See countless lives in a single meal. This practice reminds us that we are never truly alone or separate. We are the continuation of countless conditions, part of an infinite web of life. And finally, we can transform emptiness into space. Just as a cup's usefulness comes from its emptiness, our lives gain possibility from the spaces within. Instead of fearing emptiness, we can honor it as the ground from which creativity, love, and wisdom arise. Emptiness is not absence, it is openness. It is the space that allows life to flow. There will still be days when loneliness feels sharp, when emptiness feels heavy. That is part of being human. But each time we meet these feelings with mindfulness, they lose some of their power to frighten us. Each time we hold them with compassion, they become less of a void and more of a teacher. Imagine living in this way. When loneliness arises, it opens your heart rather than closing it. When emptiness arises, it awakens your sense of interconnection rather than your fear. Life would still have its challenges, but those challenges would no longer hollow you out. Instead, they would deepen you, making you more tender, more awake, more alive. So the next time you feel loneliness pressing in, pause, breathe, listen to what it is asking of you. The next time emptiness appears, look deeply, not at what is missing, but at what is here, woven into every breath, every step, every moment. In this way, loneliness and emptiness are not prisons but doorways. Doorways into compassion, into connection, into the profound truth that you are never truly alone. Human desire is endless. The moment we achieve one goal, another appears. The moment we gain one possession, we begin longing for more. We tell ourselves, if only I had this, if only I achieved that, then I would finally be happy. But no matter how much we gain, the happiness never lasts. This endless cycle is what Buddhism calls tanha, or craving. It is not desire itself that causes suffering. It is our attachment to desire, our clinging to what we cannot hold forever. To understand craving, imagine holding water in your hands. The tighter you squeeze, the more it slips away. Life is like this. The more we cling to possessions, relationships, or identities, the more fragile they become in our grasp. We fear losing them, and that fear itself becomes suffering. Attachment promises happiness, but it delivers restlessness. The Buddha identified craving as one of the core roots of suffering. It is craving that fuels the endless cycle of birth and rebirth, joy and sorrow, gain and loss. Craving arises in many forms: desire for pleasure, desire for existence, desire for control. And attachment makes us believe that if we cling tightly enough, we can keep what is bound by impermanence. But letting go is not about rejection or denial. It does not mean we stop caring or stop loving. True letting go means releasing the illusion of ownership, the belief that we can freeze life in place. It means enjoying what we have without clinging, loving without trying to possess, living without demanding permanence. Consider a flower. You can enjoy its fragrance and beauty while it blooms, but if you cling to it, trying to keep it forever, it will wither in your hands. The joy of the flower lies in appreciating its impermanence. In the same way, we can love people, cherish experiences, and appreciate possessions without clinging to them. We enjoy them fully, knowing they are precious precisely because they will not last. So how do we practice letting go of attachment and craving? The first step is awareness. We must notice when craving arises. I want this. I need that. I cannot be happy without it. By naming craving, we begin to loosen its grip. We shift from being consumed by it to observing it. Already, a small freedom appears. The second step is reflection. When craving arises, we can ask, will this truly bring lasting happiness, or will it fade like all the others? Often, just asking this question reveals the truth that the object of craving may bring temporary pleasure, but not the deep peace we long for. This reflection does not always stop the craving immediately, but it weakens the illusion that it holds the key to lasting fulfillment. The third step is to cultivate gratitude for what is already here. Craving makes us restless, always reaching for the next thing. Gratitude grounds us in the present. When we pause and notice the blessings already around us, the breath, the body, the people we love, the simple joys, we realize we are already surrounded by treasures. Gratitude transforms craving into contentment. Another powerful practice is generosity. Craving says, "Hold on, this is mine." Generosity says, "Let go, this can be shared." Each act of giving loosens the chains of attachment. Whether it is time, resources, or kindness, generosity expands the heart and breaks the illusion of possession. In Buddhism, generosity is often seen as the first step on the path to liberation because it directly counters the grip of craving. Meditation also plays a role. When we sit in silence, we begin to see cravings arise and pass like waves. A desire for food, for comfort, for recognition, it appears, it lingers, it fades. By observing this process without reacting, we learn that we do not have to obey every craving. The mind grows steadier, less enslaved by desire. Over time, this freedom deepens. Of course, letting go is not always easy. Some attachments run deep, attachments to loved ones, to identities, to beliefs. Buddhism does not ask us to stop loving or to abandon responsibility. It asks us to love more wisely, to hold with open hands instead of clenched fists, to recognize that even those we love are impermanent and that clinging to them will only increase suffering. True love, free from attachment, is not less, it is more. It is love that allows freedom, growth, and peace. There is a story of a monk who carried a beautiful cup. He said, "I see this cup as already broken. Knowing this, I enjoy it fully now. Every sip of tea is precious, every glance at the cup a gift. And when it eventually breaks, I smile, because I have already accepted its impermanence." This is the essence of letting go, not to diminish joy, but to deepen it by releasing fear. When we practice letting go, we discover that craving does not vanish overnight. It arises again and again, because it is woven into the human condition. But each time we recognize it, reflect on it, and release it, its hold weakens. Slowly, the restless grasping gives way to spaciousness. The heart feels lighter, freer, more open to the flow of life. Letting go also teaches us something profound, that happiness is not found in clinging to external things, but in cultivating inner peace. When the mind is free from craving, even simple moments sitting in silence, walking in nature, sharing a meal become full of joy. This joy is not dependent on circumstances. It is stable, enduring, rooted in freedom. So the next time craving arises, pause, breathe, notice it, ask, will this bring lasting happiness? Reflect on impermanence, cultivate gratitude, practice generosity. Little by little, let the grip loosen. You may find that what remains is not emptiness but fullness, the fullness of being free. To let go is not to lose. It is to gain the spaciousness to live fully. It is to move through life with open hands and an open heart. And in that openness, we discover the peace that craving could never deliver. If there is one truth that runs through every corner of life, it is this: nothing lasts forever. The seasons shift, the body ages, relationships evolve, fortunes rise and fall. Everything that arises, must one day pass away. This truth is so obvious that we often overlook it, yet so profound that it shapes the very fabric of human existence. Buddhism calls it anicca, impermanence. At first glance, impermanence can feel like a harsh truth. We want the good things to stay. We want our youth, our health, our loved ones, our joys to remain unchanged. And when they inevitably change, we suffer. The Buddha taught that much of our suffering comes not from change itself, but from our refusal to accept it. We cling to permanence in a world that is always in motion. Think of the ocean. The waves rise and fall, one after another. None stays for long. If we try to hold a wave in place, we will only exhaust ourselves. But if we accept the movement, we can float, surf, or simply watch in awe. Life is like this ocean. Joys and sorrows, gains and losses, they all rise and fall. When we resist, we drown. When we accept, we flow. Impermanence is not only loss, it is also possibility. Because nothing lasts forever, pain also passes. Because nothing is fixed, transformation is always possible. A broken heart can heal. A mistake can become wisdom. A season of sorrow can give way to new beginnings. Impermanence means that no state, good or bad, defines us forever. The Buddha used a simple metaphor. Life is like a river. The water you step into today is not the same as yesterday's, nor will it be the same tomorrow. Our bodies, too, are rivers, cells dying and regenerating, breath flowing in and out, thoughts and emotions constantly shifting. When we look closely, we see that nothing about us is truly fixed. Even the self we cling to is impermanent, changing moment by moment. So how do we practice accepting impermanence? The first step is awareness. Notice the small changes around you, the way the sky shifts from morning to evening, the way your body feels different each day, the way emotions come and go. By observing these changes, we begin to see impermanence not as a distant idea, but as a lived reality. The second step is reflection. When we face change, whether joyful or painful, we can remind ourselves, this too will pass. These 4 words are both comforting and grounding. They remind us not to cling too tightly to pleasure, knowing it is temporary, and not to despair too deeply in pain, knowing it will not last forever. The third step is gratitude. Impermanence teaches us to cherish what is here now. Because we know that nothing lasts, we appreciate it more deeply. A hug, a meal, a moment of laughter, each becomes precious when we remember it will not return in the same way. Instead of taking life for granted, we live it fully, savoring each passing moment. Of course, accepting impermanence is not easy. When we lose someone we love, no teaching can erase the pain. Grief is natural, but even grief carries wisdom. It shows us how deeply we have loved, and it reminds us that love itself is impermanent in form, but enduring in essence. The person may be gone, but the love remains, woven into who we are. Impermanence does not erase love, it transforms it. Impermanence also frees us from despair. When we are caught in suffering, it can feel endless. But impermanence assures us nothing lasts forever, not even pain. Storms pass, wounds heal, seasons change. By remembering this, we find strength to endure. We learn to trust the process of change, even when the outcome is uncertain. In meditation, impermanence reveals itself clearly. Sit quietly and watch the breath. Each inhale arises, stays briefly, then fades into an exhale. Each exhale, too, arises, stays, and fades. Thoughts come and go, sensations appear and disappear. Impermanence is not an idea, it is what we experience with every breath. When we rest in this awareness, acceptance grows naturally. There is also joy in impermanence. Because things change, life is dynamic and alive. Imagine if nothing ever changed, no seasons, no growth, no transformation. Life would be stagnant. Impermanence is what allows us to grow, to learn, to evolve. It is the reason a child becomes an adult. A mistake becomes wisdom. A seed becomes a tree. Thich Nhat Hanh often taught that impermanence is a gift. Without it, nothing would be possible. A painful experience would last forever. A seed would never become a flower. A winter would never give way to spring. To embrace impermanence is to embrace life's creativity, its constant renewal. So, when change comes, whether welcomed or feared, we can practice meeting it with mindfulness. We breathe, we acknowledge, we allow. Instead of saying, "I cannot bear this," we say, "This is part of life. This too will pass." With this shift, change becomes less of a threat and more of a teacher. Imagine living this way, meeting joy without clinging, meeting sorrow without despair, meeting change without fear. Life would still move in waves, but we would no longer be tossed helplessly. We would ride the waves with grace, anchored in the wisdom of impermanence. The next time you watch a sunset, remember, it will not last. And because of that, it is even more beautiful. The next time you hold a loved one, remember, this moment will not return. And because of that, it is infinitely precious. This is the practice of accepting impermanence and change, not to make life colder, but to make it richer, more tender, more alive. Every day, we carry energies within us, some light and nourishing, others heavy and draining. A kind word may brighten our mood for hours, while a harsh comment can linger like a shadow. Stress at work, conflicts at home, disappointments in relationships, all of these can build up inside us as negative energy. If left unattended, this energy clouds our minds, tightens our bodies, and shapes our actions in harmful ways. Buddhism reminds us that we do not need to remain prisoners of negativity. Through daily practices, we can release what weighs us down and cultivate the energy of peace. The first practice is mindful breathing. It may sound too simple, but the breath is the gateway to transformation. When anger, stress, or sadness fills us, the mind races and the body tenses. By pausing and returning to the breath, we create space. Each inhale brings fresh energy. Each exhale releases tension. Try this. Breathing in, I calm my body. Breathing out, I release my stress. Even 3 conscious breaths can shift our state of mind. With practice, breathing becomes not just survival but medicine. The second practice is mindful walking. Instead of rushing from place to place lost in thought, we slow down and feel each step. As the foot touches the ground, we silently say, "I have arrived." As we lift the foot, we say, "I am home." This simple rhythm turns walking into meditation. The stress of the day begins to dissolve, step by step. Negative energy, stored in the body like knots, loosens with each mindful stride. Walking in this way, even from the car to the office, transforms ordinary moments into healing. The third practice is loving kindness, meditation. or metta. Negative energy often arises from anger, resentment, or self-criticism. By repeating phrases of kindness, "May I be safe," "May I be peaceful," "May I live with ease," we soften the harsh voices inside. Then we extend these wishes to others, loved ones, strangers, even those who have hurt us. At first, this may feel forced, especially toward those we resent, but with practice, the heart opens, forgiveness grows, and negative energy releases its grip. Compassion is like fresh air. It clears out the stale heaviness within us. Another daily practice is mindful journaling. Many of us carry unspoken thoughts and emotions, replaying them endlessly in the mind. Writing them down can be a powerful release. On paper, we can name our feelings honestly. Today, I felt anxious because. Today, I felt hurt when. Naming emotions gives them shape, and once they are named, they no longer control us as strongly. Journaling is like opening a window in a stuffy room. The air clears, and new space appears. Physical movement also helps. The Buddha emphasized the importance of caring for the body because mind and body are not separate. Yoga, Tai Chi, stretching, or simply mindful exercise allow energy to flow freely. When the body is stagnant, negative energy accumulates. When the body moves with awareness, tension releases. Even 10 minutes of mindful stretching each morning can change the tone of the entire day. One of the most overlooked practices is mindful consumption. Negative energy does not only come from within, it also enters through what we consume. Violent media, toxic conversations, unhealthy food, excessive news, all of these feed negativity. By choosing carefully what we read, watch, and eat, we protect our inner peace. Consuming with mindfulness means asking, does this nourish me or does it drain me? Each choice shapes the energy we carry. Gratitude practice is another way to release negativity. When we focus on what is missing, we feed dissatisfaction. But when we name what we are thankful for, our perspective shifts. Each night, write down 3 things you are grateful for, no matter how small. The warmth of sunlight, a smile from a stranger, a meal that nourished you. Gratitude turns ordinary moments into treasures. As gratitude grows, negativity loses its power, and then there is silence. In the noise of daily life, we rarely give ourselves moments of quiet. Yet silence is where the mind can reset, where emotions can settle. Even a few minutes of sitting in stillness each day, without distractions, allows negative energy to dissolve naturally. Silence is not empty, it is full of healing. Of course, releasing negative energy does not mean we never feel anger, sadness, or stress. These emotions are part of being human. The key is not to suppress them, but to recognize them, hold them gently, and let them pass. The Buddha compared emotions to clouds in the sky. They come, they go. We are not the clouds. We are the vast sky that holds them. It is also important to remember that daily practices work best when done consistently, not perfectly. Some days you may have only a few minutes to breathe or walk mindfully. That is enough. Each small act is like clearing a stone from a path. Over time, the path becomes smooth, and walking becomes easier. Imagine living this way, beginning the morning with mindful breathing, walking to work with awareness, pausing during the day for gratitude, ending the evening in silence. Negative energy would still appear, but instead of building into storms, it would pass like gentle rain. your body would feel lighter, your mind clearer, your heart more open. The practices are simple, but their effect is profound. Breathing, walking, loving kindness, journaling, movement, mindful consumption, gratitude, silence together, they create a rhythm of release. They remind us that peace is not found in avoiding life's challenges, but in meeting them with awareness and care. So tonight, before bed, take one practice. Breathe, write, stretch, sit in silence. Release what no longer serves you, and tomorrow, begin again. Each day is a new chance to let go of negative energy and to invite peace into the body, the mind, and the heart. The path of mindfulness, compassion, and awakening can sometimes feel lonely. We may sit in meditation and wonder if anyone else struggles with distraction as much as we do. We may try to live with kindness in a world full of competition and feel out of place. We may long for deeper conversations, yet find ourselves surrounded by small talk. This is why the Buddha emphasized the importance of Sangha, the community of practitioners. Alone, we can walk far. Together, we can walk farther, with more joy, more strength, and more peace. Sangha is more than just a group of people gathered in the same room. It is a living community of support, encouragement, and shared practice. It can be a formal monastery, a meditation group, a circle of friends who practice mindfulness together, or even an online community united by shared intention. Wherever two or more people come together with sincerity to practice the Dharma, there is Sangha. Why is community so powerful in daily practice? Because transformation is not meant to be a solitary journey. Just as a single stick burns out quickly, but a bundle of sticks keeps the fire alive, our practice deepens and endures when supported by others. When we are tired, the community carries us. When we are strong, we help carry others. In this mutual exchange, the path becomes less of a struggle and more of a shared joy. Think of a time when you practiced alone. Perhaps you meditated at home, but felt distracted, questioning whether you were doing it right. Now think of sitting in silence with others. The collective energy steadies the mind. Even if your own thoughts wander, the presence of others draws you back. This is the invisible power of Sangha. It creates an atmosphere where mindfulness blossoms more easily. Sangha also provides a mirror. When we practice alone, it is easy to fall into habits or illusions. We may think we are progressing, or we may judge ourselves too harshly. But in community, we receive gentle reminders, teachings, and examples. We see others embody patience, compassion, or joy, and we are inspired to cultivate these qualities ourselves. The Sangha reflects back to us both our strengths and our blind spots, helping us grow with humility. One of the most healing aspects of Sangha is the sense of belonging. Loneliness and alienation are common in modern life. Many feel disconnected, even while surrounded by others. Sangha counters this by offering genuine connection, rooted not in appearance, status, or achievement, but in shared humanity. In Sangha, we come as we are, imperfect but sincere, and we are welcomed. This belonging nourishes the heart in a way that nothing else can. But Sangha is not only about receiving support, it is also about offering it. Each member contributes to the collective energy. A single smile, a single kind word, a single act of presence strengthens the whole. Sangha reminds us that our practice is not only for ourselves, but for others. When we cultivate mindfulness, we bring calm to the group. When we cultivate compassion, we bring warmth. When we cultivate wisdom, we bring clarity. Our personal practice becomes a gift to the community. Daily life offers countless opportunities to draw on the strength of Sangha. A text from a mindful friend reminding us to breathe. A weekly meditation circle where silence is shared. A family meal taken with gratitude. Even small moments of shared practice weave threads of connection that strengthen the fabric of our lives. Thich Nhat Hanh often said, "The next Buddha may take the form of a community." What he meant is that awakening is not just an individual achievement, but a collective one. In a world fractured by division, communities of mindfulness, compassion, and peace shine as beacons. They show that another way of living is possible, not based on competition, but on cooperation, not on greed, but on generosity, not on fear, but on love. Of course, no community is perfect. Sangha is made of human beings, each with their own strengths and struggles. Conflicts may arise, misunderstandings may occur, but this too is part of the practice. Sangha gives us a place to practice patience, forgiveness, and reconciliation. In fact, the imperfections of community are often the greatest teachers because they challenge us to embody the very qualities we aspire to cultivate. So how do we strengthen our relationship with Sangha? The first step is to show up. Presence is the foundation. Even when we feel tired or unmotivated, simply being there nourishes both ourselves and others. The second step is to practice actively, not just for ourselves, but for the whole. When we breathe mindfully, we contribute to the collective energy. When we listen deeply, we strengthen connection. The third step is to offer service, whether it is helping organize, cleaning the space, or simply offering encouragement. Acts of service remind us that Sangha is not something we consume, but something we co-create. Even if you do not have access to a formal community, you can create your own Sangha in daily life. Invite a friend to practice mindful walking with you. Share a meal in silence with your family. Join an online group dedicated to mindfulness. What matters is not size or structure, but sincerity. Every moment of shared practice builds community. Imagine a life where you never walk the path alone, where, in moments of doubt, a friend reminds you to breathe, where, in moments of joy, you celebrate together, where, in moments of sorrow, you are held by the compassion of others. This is the power of Sangha. It transforms the solitary path into a shared journey, where each step is lighter, each breath more joyful, each day more meaningful. In the end, the power of community and Sangha in daily practice is this. It reminds us that we are never truly alone. Our struggles are shared, our joys are shared, our awakening is shared. Together, we become a living expression of the Dharma, not just individuals seeking peace, but a collective embodying peace. And in that collective, the world begins to heal. When we think about spiritual practice, many imagine temples, meditation halls, or retreats in quiet mountains. Yet, for most of us, the true place of practice is much closer within the walls of our own homes, in the midst of daily family life. It is at the dinner table, in conversations with children, in the small moments of tension with a partner or parent, that mindfulness, compassion, and patience are most deeply tested. Family, far from being a distraction from practice, is one of the most profound places to live the Dharma. The Buddha often emphasized that spiritual growth is not separate from daily life. To live mindfully is not only to sit in meditation, but also to wash dishes with awareness, to speak with kindness, to listen deeply. Nowhere is this more important than in family, where the bonds are closest and the emotions most intense. The home is not just a shelter, it is a training ground for the heart. Consider how easily irritation arises at home. A child spills juice, a partner forgets a promise, a parent repeats advice for the 100th time. Small moments can trigger disproportionate reactions because family touches us at the deepest level. Strangers may annoy us, but loved ones can wound us. This is why family life is such a powerful place of practice. It brings our rawest emotions to the surface, giving us endless opportunities to transform them with mindfulness. The first step is to see family life as practice, not as an obstacle. When we shift our perspective, conflicts become teachings. The crying child is a teacher of patience. The stubborn teenager is a teacher of compassion. The aging parent is a teacher of impermanence. Instead of asking, "Why is my family so difficult?" we can ask, "What is my family teaching me?" This question changes everything. Mindfulness in family begins with presence. Too often, we are physically together but mentally elsewhere, checking phones, replaying worries, planning ahead. True presence means giving our full attention. When a child tells a story, we listen not while scrolling but with our whole being. When a partner speaks of their day, we hear not only the words but also the emotions beneath them. Presence is love in its simplest form. Another practice is mindful speech. Words spoken in frustration can leave scars that last years. The Buddha taught that right speech is truthful, gentle, and timely. In family, this means pausing before speaking in anger. It means choosing words that heal rather than harm. A single kind word, "I appreciate you," "I understand," "I'm sorry," can dissolve tension. A harsh word, once spoken, cannot be taken back. Mindfulness gives us the space to choose wisely. Deep listening is equally vital. Family members often do not need solutions. They need to feel heard. A child's tantrum may hide loneliness. A partner's irritation may mask stress. A parent's nagging may express worry. When we listen with compassion, without interrupting or defending, we uncover the heart behind the words. And when someone feels truly heard, healing begins. Gratitude is another essential practice. In family life, it is easy to take one another for granted. We notice what is missing more than what is present. But when we consciously express gratitude, thanking a partner for small acts, appreciating a parent's care, acknowledging a child's effort, we nourish love. Gratitude is like water for a plant. It keeps relationships alive and growing. Family also teaches us about impermanence. Children grow quickly, parents age, partners change. The moments we have together are fleeting. By remembering this, we soften impatience and cultivate tenderness. The mess in the living room, the noisy dinner table one day, these will be memories we miss. Impermanence turns irritation into appreciation. Of course, family practice is not always easy. Old wounds, generational patterns, and unspoken expectations can create deep suffering. Sometimes, despite our efforts, conflicts persist. In such times, self-compassion is crucial. We cannot transform everything at once, but each moment of mindfulness, each pause before reacting, each act of kindness, each breath of patience plants seeds. Over time, these seeds grow and the atmosphere of the family shifts. There is also wisdom in setting boundaries. Compassion does not mean allowing harm. If family members act in ways that cause suffering, mindfulness may require us to step back, to protect ourselves, or to seek help. Boundaries, when set with clarity and love, are not rejection, they are a way of preserving peace for all. Family as a place of practice also means celebrating together. Meals can become rituals of mindfulness, where phones are set aside and gratitude is expressed before eating. Bedtime can become a moment of connection with gentle words or shared breathing. Even chores can become opportunities, washing dishes together in silence, folding laundry mindfully. When we infuse ordinary moments with awareness, the home becomes a temple. Thich Nhat Hanh often spoke of family sangha. Just as monks and nuns practice together in monasteries, families can practice together in their homes. Simple rituals, shared silence, mindful meals, kind words create an atmosphere of mindfulness that supports everyone. In such an environment, children grow up learning patience and compassion, not from lectures, but from lived example. Imagine a family where arguments are met with pauses, where meals are taken with gratitude, where presence is valued more than distractions. Such a family would not be free from conflict, but it would be rich in love. The home would not just be a shelter from the world, but a sanctuary of peace, a place where each member feels seen, heard, and cherished. In the end, family is one of the greatest teachers. It teaches us to love beyond conditions, to forgive beyond pride, to endure beyond comfort. It challenges us, stretches us, humbles us. And if we meet these challenges with mindfulness, our families become not only sources of love, but also paths of awakening. So tonight, when you sit with your family, try pausing, breathe, look at each person as if for the first time, see their struggles, their beauty, their impermanence. Speak with kindness, listen with compassion, act with gratitude. In doing so, you will discover that family is not separate from spiritual practice, it is the heart of it. In every culture, people search for happiness. Some look for it in wealth, others in success, others in recognition. And while these pursuits may bring temporary satisfaction, they rarely bring lasting peace. Buddhism points us toward a different source of joy, one that does not depend on what we gain, but on what we give. This is the joy of service, the freedom of generosity, the deep fulfillment of living not only for ourselves, but also for others. Generosity, or dana, is one of the oldest and most central practices in Buddhism. Long before meditation was taught, the Buddha encouraged generosity. Why? Because it is the antidote to craving and attachment, the root causes of suffering. When we give, we loosen the grip of mine and me. We discover that happiness grows not from holding tightly, but from opening the hand and heart. Service and generosity are not limited to grand gestures. They begin with small acts, sharing a smile, offering a kind word, giving time to listen. A meal cooked for a friend, a door held open for a stranger, patience shown to a child, each is an act of service. These small acts may seem ordinary, but their impact is extraordinary. They ripple outward, softening hearts, building trust, spreading light. Imagine a day lived in this spirit. You wake in the morning and silently wish well-being for yourself and others. You greet a colleague, not with distraction, but with presence. You pause to let someone go ahead of you in traffic. You call a friend just to listen, not to talk. None of these take much time or money, but each is an offering. By the end of the day, you feel lighter, not heavier, because giving frees the heart. But service is not only about others, it is also about us. When we give, we nourish our own hearts. Studies confirm what Buddhism has long taught. Generosity reduces stress, increases happiness, and strengthens relationships. People who volunteer regularly often report greater life satisfaction. Why? Because service aligns with our true nature. Deep down, we are not separate beings, competing endlessly. We are interconnected, and when we serve, we live in harmony with that truth. The Buddha taught that there are many ways to give. We can give material gifts, food, money, shelter. We can give time helping, listening, being present. We can give knowledge, teaching, sharing wisdom, guiding others. We can give fearlessness, offering safety, protection, comfort. We can give love through compassion, forgiveness, and kindness. Every person, no matter their circumstances, has something to give. One of the most powerful forms of service is listening. In a world full of noise, to listen deeply is a rare and healing gift. Sometimes people do not need advice or solutions, they need presence. To sit with someone in their pain, to hold space without judgment, is one of the highest forms of generosity. It says, "You are not alone, your suffering matters, you matter." Generosity also transforms relationships. When we serve without expecting return, trust deepens. When we give freely, without hidden motives, love grows. A parent serving their child with patience, a partner serving with kindness, a friend serving with loyalty, these acts weave strong bonds. The energy of giving nourishes not only the receiver but also the giver. Of course, generosity is not always easy. The ego resists. It whispers, "What about me? What if I give and receive nothing back?" This fear is natural, but with practice, we discover a paradox. The more we give, the more we receive, not in possessions, but in peace. Generosity opens the heart, and an open heart is itself the greatest reward. Service does not mean neglecting ourselves. True generosity includes self-care. When we rest, when we nourish our own bodies and minds, we serve others better. If we give until we are depleted, our service becomes unsustainable. Balance is key. Generosity flows best from a well-tended heart. Another important aspect is intention. In Buddhism, giving is not just about the act, but about the spirit behind it. If we give out of guilt or obligation, the act feels heavy. But if we give with joy, the act becomes light. Even a small gift, offered with sincerity, carries immeasurable value. A bowl of rice, given with love, can mean more than gold given with indifference. To build a life of service and generosity, we must weave these practices into daily life. We can start with small commitments, offering a smile each day, practicing patience in traffic, setting aside time to help a neighbor. Over time, service becomes not something we do occasionally, but a way of being. Life itself becomes an offering. Thich Nhat Hanh often said, "The practice of generosity is the practice of letting go. Letting go of ego, of greed, of the illusion of separateness. Each act of service loosens the chains of self-centeredness, allowing us to step into the vastness of interconnected life. We discover that to serve others is to serve ourselves. because there is no true separation. Imagine a society where service and generosity were the norm, not the exception, where leaders ruled with compassion, businesses operated with fairness, neighbors cared for one another. The world's suffering would not vanish, but it would soften, and that vision begins not with governments or institutions, but with us, with each small act of generosity in daily life. So tonight, ask yourself, what can I give? Maybe it is a kind word, a gentle smile, a moment of listening. Tomorrow, ask again, how can I serve? Perhaps it is through patience with a child, support for a colleague, or compassion for a stranger. These small acts, repeated daily, build a life of service, and a life of service is a life of joy. In the end, building a life of service and generosity is not about sacrifice, it is about freedom. It frees us from the endless cycle of craving and turns our energy outward toward love. It transforms ordinary days into extraordinary opportunities. It fills our lives not with possessions, but with meaning. And in that meaning, we find the happiness that cannot be lost. When people hear the word mindfulness, many imagine monks in robes, sitting silently in monasteries, far removed from the hustle of daily life. But the true power of mindfulness is not found in retreat from the world, it is found in how we live within it. The challenge and the opportunity is to bring mindfulness into modern life, with all its noise, speed, and complexity. For it is precisely in this modern storm that mindfulness becomes most essential. Modern life is fast. We rush from task to task, juggling work, family, obligations, and endless notifications. Rarely do we pause. Rarely do we rest. Even moments of quiet are often filled with screens. This pace leaves us stressed, anxious, and disconnected not only from others, but also from ourselves. Mindfulness offers an antidote. It is the invitation to slow down, to breathe, to live fully in each moment rather than racing past it. But how do we practice mindfulness in a modern world that seems designed to scatter our attention? The key is not to escape life's demands, but to weave mindfulness into them. We do not need to carve out hours each day. We need only to return, again and again, to awareness wherever we are, whatever we are doing. Start with the breath. It is always with us, a portable refuge. In the middle of a meeting, on a crowded train, while cooking dinner, we can pause and take one mindful breath. Breathing in, I know I am breathing in. Breathing out, I know I am breathing out. That simple act interrupts autopilot and restores presence. One breath can be enough to shift the entire energy of a moment. Mindfulness can also be integrated into routines. Brushing teeth, washing dishes, walking to the car. These ordinary acts become practice when done with awareness. Instead of rushing through them while thinking ahead, we stay with the sensation, the taste of toothpaste, the warmth of water, the feel of the ground beneath our feet. Suddenly, routine is no longer routine, it is alive. Technology, often blamed for distraction, can also become a tool for mindfulness. We can set reminders to pause, use apps that guide meditation, or place calming backgrounds on our screens. More importantly, we can choose how to engage. Before opening social media, pause and ask, why am I here? Does this serve me? By approaching technology mindfully, we transform it from master to servant. Another practice is mindful communication. Modern conversations are often rushed, distracted, or half-hearted. We listen while thinking of our reply, or while glancing at our phones. But when we practice mindful listening, offering full attention without judgment, relationships deepen. And when we speak mindfully, choosing words that are kind, truthful, and timely, we create harmony rather than conflict. Every conversation becomes an opportunity for practice. Mindfulness at work is also crucial. In the modern workplace, multitasking is praised, yet it often leaves us exhausted and less effective. By focusing on one task at a time, with full presence, we accomplish more with less stress. Meetings, too, can be transformed. Imagine beginning a meeting with 1 minute of silence, everyone breathing together, arriving fully before beginning. Such simple practices bring clarity and calm even into busy environments. Mindfulness also reshapes our relationship with time. Modern culture glorifies busyness, as though a packed schedule proves our worth. But mindfulness reminds us that busyness is not the same as meaningfulness. By pausing, we ask, is this task truly important, or am I rushing out of habit? This awareness helps us simplify, prioritize, and live with intention rather than compulsion. Family life, too, benefits from mindful integration. Instead of letting evenings slip by in distraction, families can create mindful rituals, a meal shared in gratitude, a few minutes of silence before bed, a walk taken together without devices. Children especially thrive when parents offer presence instead of just provision. A mindful hug, a moment of listening, can nourish them more than any material gift. Of course, modern life brings challenges that ancient practitioners did not face: constant notifications, consumer pressures, global crises. But mindfulness is timeless precisely because it adapts. Its essence is simple: awareness, presence, compassion. These qualities are just as needed in a bustling city as in a quiet forest. In fact, perhaps they are needed more. Thich Nhat Hanh often reminded us that mindfulness is not about escaping society, but about transforming it. Peace in oneself, peace in the world, he said. When we bring mindfulness into modern life, we do more than reduce personal stress, we change the collective energy. A mindful teacher influences students. A mindful doctor heals more deeply. A mindful leader inspires justice. Each act of mindfulness ripples outward, but we must also be patient. Integrating mindfulness into modern life is not about perfection. We will forget. We will get lost in distraction. The practice is simply to return again and again, gently, without judgment. Each return is victory. Each return strengthens the habit of presence. Imagine a life where mindfulness flows naturally into daily moments, where your commute is not just traffic, but an opportunity to breathe, where your meals are not rushed, but savored, where your work is not frantic, but focused, where your relationships are not shallow, but deepened by presence. This life is not far away. It begins with a single mindful breath, repeated often. In the end, integrating mindfulness into modern life is not about changing the world around us. It is about changing how we move through it. The noise may remain, the pace may remain, the challenges may remain, but within us a stillness grows. And from that stillness, we meet the world not with restlessness, but with peace. Spiritual practice is not something we finish, like a book we put back on the shelf, or a course we complete. It is a lifelong journey, a path we walk step by step, breath by breath. There will be moments of clarity and peace, and there will be moments of distraction and struggle. What matters is not perfection, but persistence. Buddhism offers us a roadmap for this lifetime of practice, guidelines that help us stay steady on the path, no matter where life takes us. The first element of the roadmap is daily practice. Just as a plant needs regular watering, the heart and mind need regular nourishment. Even a few minutes each day sitting in silence, breathing mindfully, walking with awareness keeps the roots alive. Some days, practice may feel effortless. Other days, it may feel heavy. Both are part of the path. What matters is consistency. Daily practice is like building a fire. Each breath, each step, each mindful act adds fuel. Over time, the flame grows steady and strong. The second element is community. As we explored earlier, Sangha provides support, encouragement, and companionship. Alone, it is easy to get lost, to doubt, to give up. In community, we are reminded of our purpose, strengthened by collective energy. Part of the roadmap is to seek out, nurture, and contribute to community, whether through meditation groups, friendships, or family practice. Sangha is the wind that helps carry us forward when our own strength falters. The third element is study. Practice is not only about meditation but also about understanding. Reading the sutras, listening to Dharma talks, reflecting on teachings, these nourish the intellect and guide the heart. Study provides clarity, preventing us from mistaking distraction for progress. But study is most powerful when combined with practice. The map is valuable, but it is the walking that brings us to the destination. The fourth element is ethical living. Morality is the soil in which practice grows. If our actions are rooted in dishonesty, harm, or greed, the mind will be restless, weighed down by guilt and conflict. But when we live with integrity, speaking truth, acting kindly, consuming mindfully, the mind becomes lighter. Ethical living is not a burden but a liberation. It frees us from inner conflict and supports the clarity needed for meditation and wisdom. The fifth element is resilience. A lifetime of practice will include setbacks. There will be days when we feel far from peace, when old habits return, when suffering feels overwhelming. The roadmap does not promise a straight line. It promises guidance. Resilience means meeting setbacks with patience and compassion, remembering that falling is part of walking. Each time we return, each time we begin again, the path deepens. Another part of the roadmap is balance. The Buddha spoke of the middle way, not indulgence, not extreme denial, but balance. In practice, this means avoiding both laziness and harsh striving. It means resting when needed, but also pushing gently when growth calls. It means balancing meditation with service, silence with engagement, study with action. Balance keeps the practice sustainable across a lifetime. The roadmap also includes openness. As we walk, our understanding changes. Insights deepen, perspectives shift. To cling to one form, one belief, one technique is to become rigid. Openness allows the practice to evolve with us, adapting to life stages, youth, adulthood, old age. What serves us in one season may change in another. The essence remains mindfulness, compassion, wisdom, but the forms may shift. Finally, the roadmap includes joy. Practice is not meant to be grim or heavy. It is a path of liberation, of lightness, of freedom. Joy arises not from avoiding life, but from living it fully, with awareness, singing with children, drinking tea slowly, watching the sunset. These are also practice. Joy nourishes resilience, reminding us why we walk the path. Without joy, practice becomes duty. With joy, it becomes love. So what does this roadmap look like in daily life? It looks like beginning each morning with a mindful breath. It looks like pausing during the day to return to the body. It looks like speaking kindly, listening deeply, acting with integrity. It looks like studying a few lines of wisdom, reflecting, and applying them. It looks like meeting challenges with patience, setbacks with compassion, joys with gratitude. It looks like returning, again and again, to presence. This roadmap does not lead to some distant paradise. It leads to this very moment. Liberation is not in the future, it is in how we meet the present. Each mindful breath, each compassionate act, each moment of awareness is itself a step into freedom. The journey and the destination are one. Imagine walking this path for a lifetime. Years from now, you look back and see not a life of endless craving, distraction, and regret, but a life of presence, service, and peace. You see relationships nurtured, communities strengthened, hearts touched. You see that the path was not always easy, but it was always meaningful. And in that reflection, you smile because you walked with awareness, and in walking, you found home. In the end, the roadmap for a lifetime of practice is not complicated. Breathe, be present, live ethically, practice daily, serve others, seek community, study deeply, stay resilient, remain joyful. Return again and again to this moment. With these steps, life itself becomes the path, and the path becomes life. Dear friends, we have walked together through this journey from chaos to calm, from the storms of the mind to the stillness of the heart. Along the way, we explored how daily Buddhist practice through breath, mindfulness, compassion, wisdom, and community can transform ordinary life into a path of peace. What we have discovered is simple yet profound. Calmness is not something distant, reserved for monks or hidden in temples. It is available here and now, in every breath, every step, every choice we make. When stress strikes, we return to the body. When loneliness arises, we embrace interconnection. When anger burns, we breathe and transform it into compassion. When life changes, we accept impermanence with grace. Daily practice is not about perfection. It is about beginning again, moment by moment. Even a single mindful breath in the morning can shift the entire day. Even a single act of kindness can change a life. Even a single moment of gratitude can turn emptiness into fullness. These small practices, repeated, become the fabric of a calm and meaningful life. And so, as you move forward, I invite you to take this wisdom not only as words but as living guidance. Apply it as you work, as you eat, as you walk, as you speak, as you listen. Let your home, your family, your community become your place of practice. Let each day, no matter how ordinary, become an opportunity to cultivate peace. My wish for you is the greatest wish one can offer, that you may be safe, that you may be healthy, that you may be peaceful, and that you may be truly happy. May your days be filled with clarity, your heart with compassion, and your life with the deep joy of living mindfully. If these teachings touched you, I invite you to join our journey here at Buddhism Verity. Subscribe, share, and walk with us as we continue to explore the Dharma together. Each subscription, each share, is not just support for this channel, it is a seed of peace planted in the world. Together, we can create a sangha of kindness and wisdom that shines light in times of darkness. Thank you for being here, for listening, and most importantly, for practicing. May peace be with you, today and always.